If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back, joined by my good friend Bruce Kennedy, aka Bruce the Moose from the Sting podcast. Check him and Chuck out on Rumble. Our in-house CIA operative, author extraordinaire, aka 007, or Effin' Jeff is his new handle. I don't know where that came from, but I've just been informed where to call him Effin' Jeff.
For my wife, actually.
And we're joined by our in-house SME on Intel S2. Good to see your avatar, S2.
Hey, Chris.
All right, so we're going to jump right in. There are some big news items that happened this afternoon, and probably the biggest of them all was SCOTUS siding with Donald Trump and blocking the lower court's order forcing Trump to give aid to foreign countries. So basically what happened here is they pulled the wool over the left side and essentially turned USAID into a component of another department. And so they really they're not as subject to the same rules, I guess, as George Behezy says here, absolute genius. So let me give it to you in his words. He explains it better than me. After many court orders attempting to force the reinstatement of USAID, the Trump administration just issued a final memo to the remaining staffers telling them they're fired as part of a merger with the Department of State. As Secretary Rubio has said, following congressional consultations, the State Department intends to assume responsibility for many of USAID's functions and its ongoing programming. Accordingly, the department will seek to retire USAID's independent operation consistent with applicable law. As part of that process, subsequently, all non-statutory positions at USAID will be eliminated. As a result, USAID personnel globally will be subject to a consolidated reduction in force, aka RIF action. This is some beautiful creativities. The court said USAID had to be revived, but they never said anything about it merging with the State Department and getting deleted anyway. So he did a much better job of explaining it than I did. Bruce, your thoughts on this power move?
Just God bless Elon Musk and his team. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
the former government guy, God, you need to do this to every one of them, just about.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, totally agreed. S2, I know you got to be happy about this. We finally won a big one.
Somebody finally listened to me.
Did y'all hear S2 say something, or am I just imagining? Jeff, I know how your thoughts are on this, but what a brilliant move at the end of the day.
Well, again, they're playing checkers. Trump people are playing chess. There's all these arcane rules and procedures. And I think that starting in November, about November 6th, they started figuring out, okay, how are we going to use these arcane rules to our advantage? And if you say, well, we're not deleting it, we're just merging it, and then we're going to delete the parts. That's
Boasberg going to be big mad about that.
Isn't he?
And they need to do the same thing to education needs to go away 100%. It's just a total boondoggle. Half of agriculture can go away. Keep some of the ag research and food safety, but everything else can go. It's mostly just funneling money to big ag anyway. HUD, most of that can go. I mean, we have a Department of Housing and Urban Development that builds no housing and develops no urban. So why is it there? All it does is just stand in the way of people trying to build houses and apartments and things like that. Yeah, we need to get rid of about 60% of the federal government.
Yeah, even worse than that. I'm sure you all remember this. When Obama was in his second term, he basically said that if your municipality doesn't allow Section 8 housing, because there's lots of municipalities in the past who've said no Section 8 housing, they lost all kinds of federal money for other programs. And essentially what Obama's HUD said was that you have to change your bylaws to allow multi-density housing units be built in the most affluent suburbs. So we're just going to commingle these two opposite ends of the spectrum together, and it'll all be good.
I think it was like 10% of any housing development had to be
Quite a bit.
Section 8. And the funny thing about it was they wanted to get people into these houses that they couldn't afford. Where did we hear that before?
Okay, 2008, I believe.
Yeah.
With interest-only loans.
Yeah.
So what's your income? I make 500,000 a year. Okay, perfect. Sign here. Here's your mortgage, and it balloons in 2 years.
Yeah. Or better yet, how much do you make? I make 20, 25. Okay, we'll approve you for a $4 million home. That's all you can do is pay the interest.
Yeah, absolute insanity for sure.
And then Fannie Mae will repo it and sell it off again.
Yeah,
Freaking
exactly.
Ponzi scheme.
Or BlackRock will buy it up.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So next one up, JD Vance and his wife were in Greenland today. And this is a very short snippet of him speaking. He's very, very eloquent. He did a great job. I watched the extended coverage on this live while it was happening. But in this particular part here, he's essentially making comments towards Denmark, who have not been a good steward of Greenland, which, by the way, I can't remember who it was, but I consume from left to right just because it lets me know how the crazies think on the other side. And this guy was laughing about Trump's aspirations for Greenland because don't you know that Denmark, they pump millions of dollars into the economy in Greenland each year. And Donald Trump's ridiculous if he thinks that he could replace the subsidization that Denmark provides. And I'm like, what? Like, what's their annual GDP? It's in the billions. It's not even in the trillions.
Trump could replace that with his personal money. I mean, there's only like 50,000 people in Greenland. It's a small city if it was shrunk down.
So it's probably going to come to some sort of, vote by the people of Greenland. And there's 57,000 people. So if you gave each of them $1 million, said basically, look, if you vote to become an American territory like Puerto Rico, we'll give each of your residents $1 million. It'd be $5.7 billion. You couldn't ask for cheaper real estate acquisition that is so strategic in that part of the world.
It'd be 57.
Yeah, 5.7 billion.
That'd be 57 billion. It's 1,000. A billion is 1,000 million. So every 57,000 people.
Listen, it's late on Friday. Don't try and confuse me.
I'm sorry, I can't do math.
It's a lot of money that starts with a 57.
Don't ask a pipe fitter to do that math.
Hell, we just give them all 100 grand. I'm sure
if I'm reading my calculator right, and by the way, it is end of day Friday, he's right. So Jeff's always right. Jeff even has a T-shirt that says something to the effect of, if you didn't get something right,
at first you don't succeed.
Yep.
Do what Jeff told you to do in the first.
Oh,
you said it to me. I didn't. It's not me. I'm not buying that. My wife goes, "Oh God." She rolled her eyes.
All right.
You wear it to the St. Patrick's Day party.
That's too funny. 31 seconds, JD.
That's what this is about. There is no amount of bullying, no amount of obfuscating, no amount of confusing the issue. Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is. That's what this is about.
Bruce, thoughts on Trump's aspirations to some way, somehow bring Greenland into the fold?
There's got to be something else I'm missing. So this is all about having a military base there?
Well, we have a small base there right now, but one, it's protection against the Russians coming over the North Pole, which is a very short route. And the other part is that you control all the shipping lanes there as well. for economic purposes, and it opens up a whole slew of ways of getting products to the other side of the planet without having to go down either around the Cape of Africa or through the Panama Canal. It's very, very strategic. As a matter of fact, the Germans in World War II, it was one of the targets that they wanted, and they tried to take it, and we stopped them. And we lost a lot of men stopping them, by the way. There was one particular ship that we had. There were 1,000 men on it, and many of them died. And there's some really interesting stories of heroism where there were 4 pastors on that ship, and the rest were troops. And all 4 pastors took off their life vests and gave them to somebody who was a troop and said, I want you to have my life vest. Yeah, it's pretty incredible stuff when you look it up.
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of research on Greenland.
Well, all of the Russian land-based ICBMs, if they ever launch them at us, have to fly over the North Pole and Greenland. So that's the shortest route. But as the oceans de-ice, and if they warm up a little bit, and they will, that becomes a shipping route, a viable shipping route. It won't be full of ice anymore, or it'll be ice easy to get through. You put in some ice breakers.
So I would assume that Trump's Iron Dome would have something to do with Greenland.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, and if memory serves me right, there was some sort of resurrection of the Dew Line in Canada, which is ours essentially. Just happened very recently.
NATO, yeah.
Yeah,
we have Thule Air Force Base in Greenland. And then there was, in the 50s, there was a under the ice base that was, I think they were going to put a nuclear reactor in it and have an under the ice military base with miles and miles of tunnels. But the problem is the ice kept shifting, and they were constantly having to go in and shave ice and open up tunnels and stuff. And it became impractical.
I also thought there was a submarine base or a submarine dock there as well.
There probably is in the south
because there was a lot of talk about that from World War II.
That's right.
That sub base was already there, so it's already been built. It just needs to be refurbished.
And there was there's the Air Force Base there was when they were ferrying B-17s over from the United States to Britain in World War II. They would if they had problems, they could land there. And actually, there was a flight of a B-17 and some P-38 Lightnings that landed on the ice, and then got completely covered up. And there was a Texas gas billionaire who actually sent an expedition there, and they dug down to those, and he pulled out one of the P-38s, and it's now named Glacier Girl, and he restored it. And it was, and the only damage to the airplane was bent props. And it's flyable to this day. Now he had it redone, and it is the only P-38 flying today that still has the original Liberty engines from World War II. It's got the original engines.
Amazing.
But they had to take it apart and take it in pieces and haul it up this shaft in the ice about 100 feet.
Quite an operation. All right.
I've seen it personally. It's a beautiful airplane.
Very neat. All right, next one up. S2 and I had a short exchange on this. I'm going to read Laura Loomer's theory and then go to S2 first, but y'all are welcome to chime in as well. This was this afternoon, by the way. So many people are wondering why there are calls to fire Pete Hegseth, but no calls to fire Mike Waltz. So let me just say something right now. Mike Waltz was our rep here, and we voted for him the first 2 times and did not the following time. And then, of course, he got appointed Trump's national security advisor. He's another one of these scumbag Congress critters who voted against FISA warrants for Congress members. But you and I, they don't need warrants. They can gather any type of intel they want, with no judicial oversight. He's just another swamp creature. So with that being said, there's an active op taking place, and it involves Chinese Alex Wong and Senator Tom Cotton, who's been plotting to take Pete Hegseth's spot. And we mentioned that Alex Wong, his wife, they're both Chinese. She works for a bunch of Democrat, stuff on the NGO side. And he worked for a law firm that recently had its security clearance yanked by Trump. But Tom Cotton he's another rhino piece of crap. So Tom Cotton has been gunning for a role in the Trump admin for a long time. And if you recall, the mainstream media ran an entire shadow influence campaign to pitch Cotton as DOD secretary before the 2024 election. Alex Wong is not only Mike Waltz's deputy national security advisor, but he also served as the foreign policy advisor for Tom Cotton from 2015 to 2017. Alex Wong, by the way, is the one who set up the Signal channel with the 19 people being included. And then everybody else, all they had to do is sign in or accept the invitation to the group. But he was the guy behind it who actually did it. All right. So it was Tom Cotton who referred Wong to Waltz. Tom Cotton knows he's getting primaried, so he wants to be the DOD secretary after being passed over for the job. He was initially rumored to be a top contender to be a CIA director or DOD secretary. Cotton is so thirsty to be DOD secretary, even though he said he wasn't. And now it appears that it is even having never Trumpers like Bill Kristol, seriously, do his bidding for him. Did you know that Bill Kristol's son, Joseph Kristol, was appointed as Tom Cotton's legislative director during the first Trump admin? 2 days ago, Bill Kristol tweeted that Secretary Hegseth would be fired by President Trump by today, and then he floated Cotton to be Hegseth's replacement. Alex Wong was on the Signal chat. He set the Signal chat up. He is Mike Waltz's deputy, and he was sent to Waltz by Cotton. This all appears very coordinated. Ask yourself why Tom Cotton would hire the son of one of the most anti-Trump individuals to be his legislative director, and why he referred his Chinese foreign policy advisor to go work for the National Security Council. I hope Hegseth has his head on a swivel. So here we are with Bill Kristol. Golly, this guy's such a slippery scumbag. Yep. Prediction: Hegseth gone by Friday. Don't know replacement. Cotton, question mark. Here's his son. Just almost as bad as his father. The apple doesn't fall far.
Harvard.
Yeah, exactly. And here are some of the positions that he's had. And there you go. Here's a snapshot of who could be in Donald Trump's cabinet. And again, they were pushing Tom Cotton, the mainstream media. So S2, I know you've been diving into this. Give us your thoughts on this first.
Yeah, I've kind of reached some of the same conclusions that Laura Loomer did roughly about the same time. I have a different take on it, though. I think that this was a known thing that was going on, and this was a setup as a flushing op, because they knew that Alex Wong was in there. He knew his connections to Tom Cotton. And I think they were using this because if you read the actual text that went back and forth, they held this one day before the national security hearing.
Okay.
So this was like 2 days before that. And if you actually read the texts were held for that day before. But if you read the text, it reads like the script from Maverick 2, pardon me.
Right.
Because they're talking about, okay, we're going to launch our F-18s at this time, second wave of F-18s, and then we're going to shoot our Tomahawk missiles. It read just like the script from Maverick 2. So
Okay.
I think this was known, and I think it was set up to flush this out.
Very interesting. Well, I'm sure we'll find out at some point in time, but what I take from this is I wrote Michael Waltz off a while ago, and I'm 100% confident in doing that. And when he got appointed to this position, I thought to myself, here we go again with Donald Trump surrounding himself with complete and utter scumbags. So I'm telling you, I used to go back and forth with his office, complaining of one thing or another, or chastising them for one thing or another. Now they've completely blocked me. So anyway.
Well, there's another piece of this too that a lot of people don't know, is that a lot of these main guys like Mike Waltz and some of the politicians out there, they don't run their cell phones. They're walking around up there in DC with a stack of cell phones up there. They've got one phone for this, one phone for this.
Correct.
And their aides or their staffers are the ones that are running their social media accounts and things like that.
Exactly.
So if he got invited to that meeting, Alex Wong was probably the one that did it.
It's on record, actually, that Alex Wong was the one who sent out the invites. He set the group up. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the one that should be fired then.
Well, I think he should be fired, and they should consider getting rid of Waltz as well. Waltz doesn't have the credentials to be a national security advisor, by the way, and he's another scumbag. And here he is cooperating with Tom Cotton and Bill Kristol, for crying out loud. Come on.
Yeah, anyone
Bill
that
Kristol
is shit to me.
Bill Kristol was a major recipient of USAID money too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
about 2 cutouts, but he got it. Yeah.
All right, so I got 2 more breaking news stories, kind of breaking news stories. Then we'll get into the main topic, which is Tren de Aragua. And I put this on here for a very specific reason, but we're seeing all of these attacks against, people who own Teslas. Some of them are happening live like this. So a guy in a Lexus pulls a gun on a Cybertruck driver, make him famous, MAGA. So there's no audio that goes with this, so you can see him flapping his.
If you look, it's not a gun; it's a taser.
Yeah,
but he's an idiot because it's Texas.
Bingo.
People will return fire.
So that's actually where I was going to go.
Guns.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go with this. Is that Texas has a very strong stand your ground law, much like we do here in Florida. We were the first ones, and our law is only 3 sentences long. There's no room for misinterpretation, really. But if this happens to somebody in Florida or Texas, and we're going to get a little spicy here right out of the gate, I would have shot him.
Yeah.
Full stop. As far all I can tell, I'm driving down the interstate and I see some guy pointing what looks like a gun at me beside me. He's getting high-speed lead poisoning. End of story. Just like that. And I would be 100% justified in doing that in the state of Texas.
Well, but it's Texas. Most people don't need a stand your ground law. They just have a common sense law. I'll shoot him before he shoots me.
Yeah.
The even dumber part about this is these people that are going around vandalizing these vehicles and things, have they not caught on to the fact yet that the Teslas have cameras on every side of the freaking car?
Yeah.
Hello. It's been all over the freaking news, and there you're flashing your freaking license plate right at me. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. This guy's a moron.
It's worth mentioning that those Cybertrucks and other Tesla models have security cameras around the perimeter of them, which is how they keep catching people keying them. Yeah. That's what this footage is from right here. This is actually one of the security cameras on a Cybertruck. So moving along from there, now that we've got a little bit of testosterone flowing, check this out. The UK has responded to the refusal by Gab, an American company, to obey UK censorship law by threatening to go after any other American who provides services to them. This is outrageous. The White House needs to intervene. Let me just read the bottom, and then I'll go to you first,
Can I
Bruce.
provide services so they can come after me?
Yeah. Cool. We're currently assessing platforms' compliance with these new laws, and our codes of practice can help them do that. But make no mistake, providers who fail to introduce measures to protect UK users from illegal content can expect to face enforcement action. A spokesperson for the British government said that failure to implement the Online Safety Act could lead to enforcement action, including in the most extreme cases, Ofcom asking British courts to block payment providers, advertisers, and internet service providers from working with offending platforms. And all I've got to say to Great Britain, get bent. Seriously, get bent. You have zero jurisdiction over American companies. And if you think you can take us on and win this one, good luck. Just good luck with that. If we were in chapter 3, I would have had all kinds of profanity in there. But
we need to start with Trump needs to come out and say, you do this, we're going to do the exact same thing to the BBC.
Which is propaganda. And this whole thing, by the way, is predicated on controlling information like they did with Charlie 19, so that the people only got one side of the narrative and they bought the bullshit hook, line, and sinker. That's all this is. And in reality, every party throughout history who has tried to stop people from hearing information from the other side is the party that's guilty of censorship and doing all the bad things. It is what it is. Bruce, your thoughts on the British government coming after us as Americans?
All I could think about at the time is Dan Bongino and Double Barrel.
we can.
That's really all I got to say. It's like, F you.
We can't see S2, but I'm pretty sure he does that frequently throughout the course of episodes of Survival Dispatch News. S2, this is as bad as the Metro UK chief of police saying he was going to come over here and extradite us for saying something that caused somebody anxiety.
So Gab has been under a lot of fire. I mean, a lot of fire. A lot of people don't know that because it's not one of the premier platforms out there. But I forget what his name is. Alex Torba, I think his name is.
Right, you're right.
He's been telling them, everybody just go fuck off. And putting this in here, this is outrageous. The White House needs to intervene. No, the White House doesn't need to intervene. This is not something they need to do. If the UK wants to do what they want to do to their people, that's their business. Let their people step up to it and do their thing. We don't need to be involved in any of that. We just keep on going about our business.
Yeah, but the threat to come after American companies and American individuals is the point. And that's
I'll add this other interesting piece here too, is that our commerce laws are based on Old English common law, which still applies in the UK. So if they want to do that, this could very well end up in the courts, and they're going to lose. And I mean the international courts, not our courts.
I have a feeling that Trump wouldn't respect anything from international courts, but we shall see. Okay, so we're getting ready to roll into chapter 1, which is Tren de Aragua, essentially being used by Maduro and the Venezuelan government to launch an attack against the United States. And there's a lot of evidence to that effect. I want to quickly mention that we all drink coffee from Stay Brewed Coffee here, family-owned business out of Indiana, just super people. Craig is a great human being and sends us coffee. We don't have any, paid relationship with him or anything, but he does keep us well caffeinated. Staybrewed.com, and he has a discount code. I want to say it's SD10. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but you get 10% off. None of that comes back to us. Just good, wholesome Christian family. And a quick reminder, we have a huge episode coming up on Monday. So Major James Capers is an absolute hero from the Vietnam War, where they got ambushed. He was taking his squad trying to get back to where they had started their day, knowing full well that they were surrounded by, a 10-to-1 ratio of bad guys. And he got shot up pretty bad to the point where his guts were falling out. His one leg was messed up, and he still engaged the enemy. He was the first and last to engage the enemy. They lifted him on the chopper that was medevacing these guys out, and there was too much weight on the chopper. It wouldn't take off. And he said to the crew chief, he said, let me get off. Let me get out of here so you can save my troops. And his commanding officer put in a recommendation for him to get a Medal of Honor, and then promptly died in a helicopter. So for all these years, and Major James Capers is now 87 years old, he's been dicked around by, one person after another. He was actually told that, listen, we'd love to give you this medal, but we can't because we're catching so much flack for DEI. We can't give it to a black man like you. I mean, just astonishing stuff for a guy who's an absolute hero. So Monday,
like the same thing that happened to Tom Chapman.
Yeah.
Wasn't he on the Sean Ryan show, Chris?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That guy is freaking awesome.
The 87 years old, sharp as a tack, but we're running out of time to get him his Medal of Honor before he passes away. Yep. So on Monday, we've got the gentleman, he was a Marine, by the way, for 25 years, who's been working his ass off to make this happen for the Major. We've got General Paul Vallely, the guy who built the plan that Hegseth is actually implementing right now to restore our military, as well as the plan to take on the Sinaloa cartel. First Army Ranger ever to become a general, 3 combat deployments to Vietnam. He's another American hero, which, by the way, he's one of the founders and owners of Nemo Arms, which is the only semi-automatic sniper rifles approved for use in our military. Very high-end kick-ass stuff. We also have Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers joining us. We have Admiral Robert Harward joining us. Admiral Harward is widely regarded by all living SEALs, as the greatest SEAL of all time. And one of them, Bill Brown, SEAL Team 6, who's best friends with Pete Hegseth, is going to be on as well. It's going to be an absolute barn burner of an episode, especially if you're a patriot. All right. So with that being said, actually, I lied. I did have half a dozen news items just to touch on here quickly. We won't discuss these. I'm just going to throw them out there. These are news items that are at the top of the cycle today. Trump administration unveils new tax cut proposal. The White House announces plans for significant tax reductions aimed at middle-class families and small businesses, fulfilling a key campaign promise. Border security funding battle heats up in Congress. Republicans push for increased border wall funding, clashing with Democrats over immigration policy as the illegal crossings remain a hot button issue. Supreme Court takes up Second Amendment case. A new case challenging state level gun control laws gains traction, with conservatives hopeful for a ruling reinforcing individual firearm rights. Military spending increase proposed to counter China. GOP lawmakers advocate for a beefed up defense budget, citing threats from China's growing global influence. They have 300 times the capacity to build ships that we do, by the way. They produce over 50% of the ships in the entire world now. We produce less than 0.5%. Religious freedom wins in federal court. A ruling upholds a business owner's right to refuse service based on faith, hailed as a victory for First Amendment protections. HHS reorganization sparks debate over government overreach. We touched on this briefly last night. Consolidation of the Department of Health and Human Services into fewer divisions raises questions about efficiency versus bureaucracy. Second last one, tariffs on car imports take effect. Trump's 25% tariff on imported vehicles begins, aimed at boosting American manufacturing, but risking trade tensions. And critical minerals production ramped up via emergency powers. Trump invokes wartime authority to bolster domestic mining, framing it as a national security win against China's dominance. Okay, now we're into the headline story of TDA. And you got to listen to me for just a little bit longer to get through this first post, because Insurrection Barbie did a really good job of capturing this at a high level. And then I'm going to go right to you, Bruce, then S2, and then Jeff. All right. Former CIA officer Gary Bernstein, one of the most highly decorated intelligence veterans in recent U.S. history, has come forward to confirm that the Venezuelan criminal gang Tren de Aragua, aka TDA, has been deliberately deployed into the United States by the Venezuelan regime with the express intent of destabilizing the country through sabotage and violence. According to Bernstein, TDA is no longer just a violent street gang. While they may wear the face of criminality, their core leadership and operational cells have undergone paramilitary training under the guidance of Venezuelan intelligence and military officials, aided in part by Cuban intelligence operatives and narco-terrorist networks throughout Latin America. Quoting him in the Miami Herald, journalist Antonio Delgado wrote, "The Venezuelan regime has assumed operational control of these guys, TDA, and has trained 300 of them. They have given them paramilitary training, training them to fire weapons and how to conduct sabotage. They've given them all like a 4 to 6 week course. They put these 300 guys through that course, and then they were deploying them into the United States to 20 separate states." Bernstein explained that sabotage includes acts such as arson, and that recent patterns of mysterious industrial fires, wildfires, and urban blazers, notably in Los Angeles and other key areas, could possibly be linked to these foreign trained operatives. Many of these wildfires, sorry, I got the wrong one there. Actually, many of these wildfires, industrial fires, how many of them were paid or coerced by TDA or their surrogates, Bernstein asked. Even more disturbing than the operation itself is the claim that elements within the CIA have deliberately ignored or buried this intelligence. Bernstein revealed that 2 current CIA officials recently leaked information to the New York Times claiming there is no intelligence connecting TDA to the Venezuelan government. But Bernstein says otherwise, and he has proof. The CIA doesn't have the information because they refused to look at it, he said. "We tried to brief them about this 3 years ago, but they were directed by the Biden administration to ignore it. Now those officials are trying to undermine President Trump." According to Bernstein, he's already shared intelligence and source material with elements of the U.S. government showing deep and sustained relationships between Tren de Aragua, Venezuelan and Cuban intelligence services, and high-level narco-terrorist operations. Bruce.
You see the hat I got on? Can you read the letters?
Trump.
Trump. So after this show, I'm going to go get one of those hats that say Trump was right again. I mean, he's been talking about this for years since they've been letting him across the border. So he's trying to protect us, and we got to deal with all the crap to get them back out of the country because of the judges, the lawfare.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's interesting that this has bubbled up to the top of the news cycle again, with Judge Boasberg saying that there's no justification for throwing TDA out under the 1798 Aliens Act. I would say it qualifies for sure, but I'm a layman. I'm not an attorney.
Is Trump a wartime president?
I would say so.
Yes.
I think everybody listening needs to go research what that is, and the answer should come bubbling to the top.
Good advice, Chuck. S2, I want to get your take on this. And then, Jeff, I really want to hear your thoughts on the CIA denying this. But S2, go ahead.
So I'm going to be on the show tomorrow night with Jeff O'Donnell, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this, but I'm going to put it this way. The current Venezuelan regime is not run by who people think it's run by. Who's actually running the Venezuelan government right now is Cartel del Sol.
Okay.
Maduro is a puppet of Cartel del Sol. Cartel del Sol is working with TDA. So in essence, Cartel del Sol runs the government. The leader of Cartel del Sol's sister is the vice president of Venezuela right now. And they are also subsequently tied to all three voting machine companies in the United States.
Yeah, imagine that. Smartmatic immediately comes to mind.
Smartmatic, ESS, and Heart Systems.
Right. I look forward to seeing that tomorrow night. Jeff, you're on mute.
Yeah, the CIA angle. Of course, I've been out for a long time, so I don't have anything current. But I do know we don't have the presence in Venezuela we used to. We had a lot of agency people down there. We had, in the embassy and all that. We had been reducing our footprint in Venezuela. They don't want us there. We don't want to be there. We've been pulling people out. And it is, I had a friend who worked down there, and he said the place was just shit. Back in the good old days before Chavez, we had a very good relationship with the Venezuelan government. They were conservative, they were capitalist, and they cooperated with us on counter narcotics and insurgencies and all that kind of thing. Well, once Chavez took over, and he was socialist, communist, he was in bed with the Cubans, and that's what destroyed their oil industry, is because they kicked out all the American, the U.S. oil guys who were helping them keep their production up. And then there was a big strike at PDVSA, which was the national oil company. And their solution there was to just fire everybody, all the engineers. And they're all in Houston now, by the way. Huge Venezuelan community there, but they're good guys. And what they did is they replaced them with Cuban oil experts. Does Cuba have oil? No. So how expert can their guys be? Well, PDVSA went from like 3.5 million barrels a day to like 400,000 barrels a day.
Wow.
It just imploded. And they would and the old PDVSA was very good about reinvesting money to keep up production and all that. Well, Chavez came in and said, okay, all that money you use to maintain the oil fields, we're going to use that to build low-income housing and the favelas and all that crap. And so the company just really cratered. How does this impact the CIA is that we don't have the inputs that we used to down there. We don't have the contacts and the relationships with the people in the government like we used to. So when the CIA says, well, we have no information that Tren de Aragua is really in bed with the Maduro regime, that may be true because they don't have any input, period. It's not that it's not happening. They just don't have any information because they're not collecting it.
All right. Good to know. So this article, as you can see, is on American greatness. If you want all of our sources, go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up as an insider. $9.99 a month or $95 a year. You get 2.5 months for free. You get all of our daily sit rep situation reports, has all the links to everything that we show, and you get an invite to our private Signal chat, which just has a massive amount of data sharing in there. All right. So is a Tren de Aragua military incursion? You bet. Judge Boasberg blocks Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport TDA, despite intelligence linking the gang to Venezuela's government and acts of sabotage in the United States. And he's not the only judge who has spoken out against this. And I'm not going to read this article. I have read this article. It is a very good read, and I would encourage you to read it if you have the opportunity to do so. What I will say is, how anti-American do you have to be to support keeping murderers and rapists and extreme criminals in the country instead of getting them out of the country? I mean, imagine being Laken Riley's family, or the many thousands of other American families who've lost a son or daughter to these clowns. And it's the same people who say we should let men in women's sports, all of their positions anymore. I can't remember which one of you said, I think it might have been John Wheaton, where Trump is picking 80-20 issues, where 80% of the American, populace is on one side and 20% on the other, and the Democrats are in that other 20%.
Yeah.
I don't think it's even 20%, to be honest with you. I think that the number of Americans who don't support getting TDA out of the country is probably well under 10%. It's in single digits would be my guess. Same goes with men and women's sports. So one of the biggest problems that I have with these judges, and then I'll give each of you a swing at it, is these rulings that they're issuing, and we've talked at length about this, and they are going to get stopped dead in their tracks here very shortly, but is completely against the will of the people, what people have voted for. And even people who didn't vote for Trump do not want these criminals in our country. And that's a problem when the judiciary is voting against the will of the country. Bruce, do you want to add anything in from that angle as far as the judiciary, these federal judges being out of sync with Americans?
Yeah, I mean, I will sound like a broke record. The wartime president and his powers. I'm assuming it's going to go to Supreme Court, and these guys are going to get smacked down. But I think Congress needs to be in the purse, shutting the money down. There's got to be a way to stop these guys. Yeah,
I mean, we can completely get rid of these lower courts. It's happened before.
Exactly.
It happened with the Judiciary Act of 1802. Jefferson did that.
Yeah.
And you can defund them. Probably the one initiative that's going forward that will have a lot of legs is basically saying that district court judges, and keep in mind, all 670 some odd judges that fall in this bucket fall under Congress, not the Supreme Court. So Congress can add more, subtract more, do whatever they want to these lower courts. And they're basically going to say, look, a district judge cannot issue national level injunctions. And if they want to pursue a national level injunction, it has to go to a tribunal of senior judges to determine whether or not that would be constitutional. But this Boasberg guy in particular is just, he's a clown. S2, you next.
Well, if we go back, and I've said this before, is my plan to get rid of them would be first to start defunding them. They got to have money to operate. The second thing that I was said to do was to complete an investigation into their financial ties and their families' financial ties 3 layers deep, and then issue the articles of impeachment, because the punishment is the process. If you keep these judges busy enough trying to cover their ass, they're not going to have time to mess with this stuff. But when you consider Boasberg in particular, whose sister is part of an NGO who's getting money, or was getting money, from USAID, and then his daughter works for another law firm who is defending the TDA illegals. So they're getting money on the front end and the back end all at the same time. And that's what we have found in every single case with every single one of these judges. And that, I believe, is the leverage that is being held over them to do the things that they want to do if it's not voluntary.
Yeah. All right. You're up last up to bat, Jeff.
Well, yeah, I'm not even going to hit on the judge issue, but the whole thing is this an action of the Venezuelan government? And the answer is yes, and for a very simple reason. Tren de Aragua started out as a prison gang. All these guys were in prison in Venezuela. The fact that they're here means somebody let them out. So if you let out prisoners, and this is a page right out of Castro's Mario boat lift. It started out as people trying to flee Cuba for freedom, and he emptied out his insane asylums and his prisons. And that's all Maduro's doing. He's kicking all these people out of the prisons and say, I will let you out, but you can't stay here. You got to go to America. And that's what they do. They come up here and they cause trouble. And he goes, and they still have family back there. So he's got some leverage over them. They're going to do whatever he tells them to do because he let them out of prison.
Yeah. So that was 1980, of course, when Castro emptied his prisons and sent all these inmates over here on rafts and boats.
Yeah.
I specifically remember Christmas 1980 going to South Florida to see my Uncle Fred and seeing all of these Cubans under I-95 fenced in. Mm-hmm. It was a massive number. We didn't have the infrastructure to house them, so we put them underneath the interstate bridges. Crazy times for sure.
To Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, too. They sent 100,000 of them there.
Insanity. All right. So next one up, lawfare. Obama judge rules that Trump cannot invoke the Alien Enemies Act against TDA because it's not officially part of the government. In fact, Tren de Aragua is the irregular paramilitary arm of Venezuela released and sent to destabilize the U.S. Trump should invoke the War Powers Act, notify Congress he's taken military action against Venezuela, aka TDA, and re-invoke the Alien Enemies Act, giving Congress 90 days to formally declare war on Venezuela's TDA. They've already declared an FTO, foreign terrorist organization. So here's this Obama judge, crooked as a dog's hind leg, rules that Tren de Aragua is not an enemy of the U.S. Right. So their number one means of making money is child sex trafficking. Their number two means of making money is narcotics trafficking, but they're not an enemy of the United States. I mean, just complete straight up insanity. Bruce, I don't know if you want to take another swing at this or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same answer as before. I mean, you got to get this guy stopped. He's got to be done.
Yeah. Well, so was it 2 nights ago, Bruce, when I said that my gut tells me that the left has overplayed their hand on this?
Oh, yeah.
They're
destroying themselves.
So, Jeff, well, I think it might have been the two of us that were on one night.
Last night.
Yeah, 67% of federal court injunctions against a president, 67% in the last 100 years have been against Donald Trump.
Yep.
That is.
What are you afraid of?
Well, losing all the power and money. Right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anybody who tries to justify something like that is, I don't know what to call them. But anyway, let me move on to this next one because it's a little bit longer. And then I'll come to you, S2, and then Jeff. So did President Trump's administration defy a judge's order to keep Venezuelans in the U.S.? Did Judge Boasberg have the authority to issue such an order? Same answer to both questions. Basically, it's no on both of them. I like the way he stated that. So this is a really good thread. Look up at J-Town, Alabama. There's his username on X right there, because I'm not going to read this entire thread, but I'm going to pick out some of the highlights. So he provides a timeline of events here, starting on January 20th through to this week. And then he goes on to describe the Alien Enemy Act, a 230-year-old law that can only be invoked by the president or executive branch when there is a declared war or any invasion or predatory incursion is perpetuated, attempted, or threatened against the United States. This is absolutely an incursion. None of them came into the country legally. It's an invasion because they went from January last year, they reportedly had somewhere around 2,000 members worldwide, maybe 2,100 rings a bell. And by December, that number had ballooned up to almost 20,000. They have been recruiting people like there's no tomorrow. Their MO is they come into America and they go to areas that have a large Venezuelan community because the Venezuelans are very familiar with how violent TDA is. They're scared to death of them, and it makes it easier, number one, for TDA to get a foothold, and it also provides the ability for them to recruit youngins into the fold. Moving on from there, under the American Enemies Act, the president must make a public proclamation of the attempted or ongoing invasion of predatory incursion or war, declare the group or nation state actor, hybrid criminal state that they are alien enemies under the act, and Trump did that. Then it allows the president the extraordinary authority to define and declare an invasion or predatory incursion, and that's key to this, okay? The definition of an invasion or predatory incursions is specifically in this act that it is 100% at the president's discretion at any particular point in time. There is no interpretation from the courts or anybody else. It's kind of like stand your ground. If you think your life is in danger, you can therefore take action, just like stand your ground. So alien enemies are those who are chargeable with actual hostilities or other crimes. Clearly, that's been established. And moving on to the next one, federal courts must cause apprehension and removal of alien enemies. A hearing as to whether a detained individual is within the removal class of person may be held if necessary. The law specifically states that is the court's only duty, period. And can you imagine every illegal that we try to get out of the country had to go to court to determine if we had the right to get them the hell out of our country? Interestingly enough, a hearing on whether the 5 plaintiffs before the court were from Venezuela were admitted by plaintiffs in their own emergency filing. This moots much, if not all, of the court's role for these plaintiffs. So this document is interesting. Again, I don't want to bore you all listening to me reading this stuff, but there are several flaws with the ACLU's filing, and most certainly Judge Boasberg granting a TRO, temporary restraining order, based upon such a flawed filing. First, the filing claims that the American Enemies Act may only be invoked during times of war and to counter warlike actions. That's not true.
Not true.
All right. Truman invoked the American Enemies Act 3 years after World War II. SCOTUS very clearly held that the American Enemies Act removal powers extend beyond times of war or warlike actions, whatever that is. The ACLU informs the court that neither TDA nor Venezuela engaged in an invasion or predatory incursion. These terms have no statutory definitions. They are defined exclusively by the president as commander-in-chief. And here's part of the ruling from 1948. The very nature of the president's power to order the removal of all enemy aliens rejects the notion that courts may pass judgment upon the exercise of his discretion. That is a Supreme Court ruling from 1948. This is not...
Cite that and keep deporting these people.
Yeah, exactly. This is not something that the courts haven't ruled on. So it is the president's power alone to invoke the
alien enemies.
Oh, golly. He keeps putting the acronym in there. Declare an invasion or predatory incursion, identify by whom. There's SCOTUS tells us the Alien Enemies Act involves matters of political judgment for which judges have neither technical competence nor official responsibility. Yes, stay in your lane. And yes, they are all betas. The ACLU also convinced Judge Boasberg that the TDA, they didn't convince him of anything.
No, they
just gave him a bunch of bullshit arguments that he could say, yeah, that sounds right. The ACLU also convinced Judge Boasberg TDA is not a nation state, and therefore the Alien Enemies Act is inapplicable. However, President Trump in his invocation of the Alien Enemies Act smartly intertwined the Venezuelan government with the TDA gang as a hybrid criminal state because of the work. So over the years, Venezuelan national and local authorities have ceded ever greater control over their territories to transnational criminal organizations, including TDA. The result is a hybrid criminal state that is perpetuating an invasion of and predatory incursion into the United States, which poses a substantial danger to the United States. Furthermore, okay, go ahead.
One thing. Okay, when we invaded North Africa from the shores of Montezuma to the halls of Tripoli, was the Barbary Pirates. And that's when Jefferson sent the U.S. Navy over there because they were attacking U.S. shipping and press ganging our sailors into slavery. That wasn't a nation state either. And we went to war with them and we kicked their ass. So, yeah, this whole thing is, well, TVA is not a nation state. Well, neither were the Barbary Pirates. And we went to war with them. We can do it again.
That's great. Thank you for that input, Jeff. Furthermore, the standard for every TRO is irreparable harm. So temporary restraining order has to show irreparable harm. The Supreme Court has expressly denied that an illegal alien's removal from the United States can ever constitute irreparable harm, justifying said TRO. Fun fact, the Obama administration argued this very point in 2009. Although removal, and this is from Obama's DOJ 2009, although removal is a serious burden for many aliens, it is not categorically irreparable. So the ACLU
makes a problem before you got here,
right? The ACLU makes 9 total claims for relief. All are without merit or moot. Claim 1 seeks to substitute the president's judgment of an invasion or predatory incursion with the judgment of either the ACLU or Judge Boasberg. Has no legal legitimacy, as we've already covered that. See that? I can't believe it. I just checked my mail, and Ed McMahon said I may already be a winner. Do you remember when we used to get tons of crap?
Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yep. Claim 2 suggests the Immigration and Naturalization Act has somehow supplemented the Alien Enemies Act. Of course, nothing in the INA expressly or implicitly repeals the Alien Enemies Act. Claims 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9 argue that the plaintiffs will be harmed or tortured if they return to Venezuela. Well, they didn't go to Venezuela. They went to El Salvador. So that then becomes a moot point. Claim 7 argues that plaintiffs need more time to get their effects in order before removal. Yeah, that's a moot point too, because they were already out of the country when Boasberg issued his proclamation that the jets be turned around and bring those rapists.
Well, they're talking about the 5 that are still here.
None of them got thrown out. I thought some of them were on the planes.
No, they still have 5 here.
Okay, good. Thank you for that correction. Claim 8 suggests the Alien Enemies Act violates the Fifth Amendment due process clause because there's no requirement, no formal process of removal. Only problem is that the guys who wrote the Alien Enemies Act also wrote the Fifth Amendment.
Well, yeah, they wrote the Constitution, for Christ's sakes.
Well, so here's the problem I have with that. It's called the American Constitution, not the World Constitution.
Exactly.
They do not have the rights that we do as American citizens. Full stop.
Nope.
The only time that they even have anything that's even close to that is if they're green card holders, and they are not.
Yeah.
Well, even if they are green card holders, they are still guests of this country. They are not citizens.
Well, I said close to, not exactly.
Close to.
Yep. No, that's a valid comment for sure.
But our Constitution no more applies to them than it means that I can go to France and carry a gun openly on my hip, because it's the French law I have to obey. And if I'm an American in France, I still have to obey French law. If you're a Venezuelan in America, you have to obey American law. And they already violated that when they came here illegally. So screw them.
When in Rome.
100%. Yeah, exactly. So Judge Boasberg has no authority to even consider a TRO in this case. Judge Boasberg has no authority to turn around government aircraft. Judge Boasberg has no authority to substitute his judgment for the president's. Judge Boasberg has no authority to issue a nationwide temporary restraining order. President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act lawfully, and he acted accordingly. Alien Enemies Act's powers are
non-justiciable.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that word. That just means that the court
they're not allowed to judiciously review it.
Makes sense. And unreviewable, says the Supreme Court, after Trump's EO January 20 declaring TDO and FTO for a terrorist organization. There's no legal difference between TDA and ISIS. And that's all, folks, on that particular thread. So I've lost track of who we're going to next. Bruce, any comments on your part, or do you want to pass it to us too?
Well, just, hey, Elon, who's funding the ACLU?
Valid.
they're part of this country. Who's funding them guys? I imagine USAID somewhere in the line there. And also, if they don't fall under this act, then they fall under Tom Homan, and Tom Homan has all the authority to get them the hell out. They're here illegal. Bye.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. S2, do you have anything else to add or move on to the next one?
Well, there was a reason in the beginning of all of this before Tom Homan got started was that he was mentioning USC 50. He was running around talking USC 50, USC 50, USC 50, because they already had this war gamed out.
Yeah.
They knew what they were going to do. They knew what the judges were going to do. I mean, shit, Jamie Raskin and his goons up there in fucking DC, they probably had somebody in there listening to them and just going back to Trump and saying, this is what they're going to do. Okay, great.
Yeah, you're probably right. I can't disagree with that. Jeff, anything else?
No, I think we beat that one to death.
Yeah, I think we have, but it enlightening even for myself, for sure. So next one up, expert bombshell. TDA gangs are being backed and funded by Venezuela to be next dimension warfare assets. And there's all kinds of information on AJ's X account. I'm not showing his name up top because the on-screen character recognition for YouTube and Facebook in particular will see that and either suppress our videos even more than they already are, or potentially take us down because AJ is banned from their platforms. But this is a 7-minute video. I'm just going to play a small portion of it at the beginning.
And what President Trump did with his executive order of designating the cartels and other TCOs as foreign terrorist organizations is he brought counter-transnational organized crime to the 21st century. TDA is not just a problem for the United States, it's a problem for the entire Western Hemisphere. And we have to apply the America First principle of burden sharing to basically share the burden of all these members. And I think there's conversations perhaps with El Salvador and other countries that potentially send these gang members to another country.
So that's a really good video, by the way. So at Real Alex Jones on X, if you want to watch the rest of it. Go ahead, Estee.
I just said boom.
Oh, okay. All right, next one up. This actually comes back to the ACLU. Apparently, it put it out of order, but this is good. The arguments presented thus far by the ACLU lawyers representing TDA and MS-13 terrorists deported to El Salvador. My client was an LGBTQ activist being persecuted in Venezuela and seeking asylum. He just had a gang tattoo fetish.
Well, great. He's in El Salvador. He doesn't have to worry about it now.
FAFO.
And a child sex trafficking fetish to go with it.
Yeah.
My client's wife says her husband just liked TDA tattoos, but he wasn't actually involved despite his violent criminal record. Listen.
That's not the way it fucking works.
Bingo. And there's a reason it doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter if it's a 1% motorcycle club, a Latin gang. If you wear anything that represents you are a member of those organizations and you are not, you will not have a good time. That's right.
They will kill you.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't just go and by the way, so go on the internet and see if you can find something, a t-shirt that says Hell's Angels on it. You will not find them. It's copyrighted for members only. You'll see something that says support 81, H being the 8th letter in the alphabet, A being 1. 81 means Hell's Angels, but you will not find anything with the Death's Head logo and the name Hell's Angels on it, because if you ever wore that, you would get smoked. Sorry,
will you find anything with the Outlaws?
Yeah, I was supposed to say get an Outlaws tattoo. I had a friend whose uncle was in the Outlaws. Yeah. Posers need not apply.
Yeah, you'll never be seen again.
No.
Yeah, that's the FO part of the equation for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next one. My client was a tattoo artist who finds gang tattoos aesthetically pleasing. Same thing.
Client's an idiot.
Yeah, and
swastika on your forehead while you're at it.
This last one's my favorite one. Yes, but my client was a violent gangbanger back in his home country. But he found Christ on his way to the United States and wanted to turn his life around. And yeah, we're not buying that.
He should have invested in tattoo removal.
Everybody always finds Jesus when they're going to jail.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Is that the truth? So this one, that article in revolver.news, the truth just got exposed. Boasberg has nowhere to hide. This guy is such an asshole. they keep trumping themselves, right? Like you go from Engeron, who had a very punchable face, to Merchon, who had a more punchable face, to now these district court judges on all of this stuff. These are the kids. These are the guys when they were kids got stuffed in lockers by the people who played on the football team and stuff.
He looks
We're
like
getting ready to
Moraes
get stuffed in a
from
locker
Brazil.
again.
Yeah.
He looks like Moraes' older brother or something.
He does. So check this out. I really only want to just cover the center section here. So there are activist judges, and then there's Jeb Boasberg. While other radical judges dabble in partisanship, Boasberg has set the gold standard. He's what weaponized every DC swamp judge aspires to. And by the way, abnormally high heart rate again. Can you hear it? This is like the 10th time it's gone off tonight. Heart rate 124. This guy checks all the boxes. Sorry, he's weaponized every DC swamp judge aspires to be: shameless, biased, proudly unaccountable, never Trump leadership, judge shopping games, absurd cruelty towards J6 defendants. Boasberg isn't just on the bench, he's leading the resistance in a long black robe. So these cases, when somebody applies to the district courts to get a temporary injunction, it's supposed to be a completely random process. But Boasberg just some way somehow keeps getting these Trump ones, right? He got the signal one.
They keep asking the magic 8-ball.
That must be it. I don't know how else to explain it. All right, next one up. Venezuela's TDA gang is now recruiting kids from migrant shelters, which I already mentioned, for increasingly violent robberies in New York City. 300 incidents last year, the entire year. 800 year to date, and we're not even out of March yet. And judges just keep releasing them, these Soros-backed people who work in the court systems. 1 minute, 7 seconds.
Have no fingerprints on file for them. We have no photographs on file for them. We have no prior criminal history on them. They swap out their IDs. We have no way of tracking or knowing who they are when they enter the country.
The NYPD's chief of detectives says undocumented criminals as young as 11 years old are carrying out retail robberies and committing crimes on scooters, snatching people's jewelry, watches, and cell phones at gunpoint and knife point. Over 300 incidents last year, more than 800 so far this year. They've brazenly shot at police officers too.
When we do make arrests and we're able to charge them on 4, 5, 6 incidents, when they go before a judge in New York City and their arrest record is run, they show no prior criminal history. They're released on their own recognizance. They're not offered bail, and they're released back into the public.
Some migrant mothers we spoke to say they fear their boys will be forced into the world of crime.
People have warned us to be careful with the child because they are recruiting younger children. It worries me a lot.
Arada Piera and her 11-year-old son Dylan live in a Manhattan migrant shelter. They arrived from Colombia last year.
All right. So, Bruce, let's pivot a little bit here, and let me get your thoughts on this revolving door that New York State in particular has created. And actually up in your part of the country as well, Boston's pretty guilty of this. They catch them in a crime. They slap them on the wrist. They let them out. Before they even get in front of a judge, they've committed another crime, and it just keeps going on and on. What's driving this in the Northeast? Because you're like one of the few people. You and Chuck are up in the Northeast. You're well-grounded, good patriots, but there's a lot of kooky people in the Northeast.
Votes matter, right? They voted for these people. They have sanctuary cities. It's like committing suicide. Also, Chuck, I watch a lot of Wano Savin. I kind of try to follow what he says. For the last couple of years, he's been saying, if you live in a blue city, you need to get out because shit's going to hit the fan in those cities because of what they created. If you have to stay behind, you better figure out how to protect yourself. You better be ready. And here it is. I can hear Juan 2 years ago saying exactly this. Where we live in New Hampshire, it's good luck coming around our neighborhoods because we're all carrying. We're not restricted about carrying firearms and whatnot. But all those cities that have taken the guns away basically from the people, they don't stand a chance.
Yeah, and I do want to comment that New Hampshire, of course, is the major exception to other parts of the Northeast.
Yeah.
But you're surrounded, man. You're surrounded by Canadians and crazy liberals here. So it's a double whammy.
Oh gosh.
Give me your take on, these Democrat cities and the revolving door of catching the bad guys, letting them go, and the danger that is posing to Americans in general.
Well, this is kind of like the shit that the cartels are pulling down in Mexico, where they're using kids to actually be coyotes. The kids will come over the mountains with the coyotes in hard to traverse areas, and then they'll get picked up and they take them over to the Mexican consulate, and then the Mexican consulate takes them right back over the border, delivers them back to the cartels again, and they're right back at it the next day. And that's part of the problem that is happening with this, where they're going in and recruiting kids, is because they understand the laws of the United States, where minors are not treated the same way adults are. If you were to pull this shit down on the South American country, things are a lot different down there. You're going to get punished. It's not like here where we're going to send you to juvenile detention for 3 months and give you 6 months of community service. And that's if you're lucky. But the danger it poses is like the police chief said, you have no criminal record, and these Soros-backed district attorneys will set a court date for these people that is like years from now, not months, years from now. And meanwhile, they're still out there doing their thing and committing crimes and just stacking up more charges. And the TDA guys are probably telling them, it's okay, we got your back. Well, I'm here to tell you, if there's any kids listening to this right now, between the ages of 14 and 18 years old, they don't have your back. You are cannon fodder. That's all you are. And you will be thrown away just as quick as a bottle cap.
Yeah, I knew I could count on you for an interesting take. Thanks, S2. Jeff.
Yeah.
You're batting cleanup on this one.
I hate saying it. It's going to sound cruel, but these people just need to go. I mean, disappear. These gang members, having grown up in the South, and there was a time when if you did really bad things happened to you. And I remember there was a friend of my dad's whose daughter was dating an older guy, and he got her into drugs, and she OD'd and almost died. And his house burned down. And when the police showed up, my dad's friend Daryl was standing there watching the house burn. And the cop, and it was Bob Putnam, he was the chief of police in this little town. He goes, "Daryl, Bob, looks like there's a fire." "Yes, there is." Well, gotta go. And that was pretty much it, because they knew, the cops knew who the guy was. They knew he was a drug dealer. They just couldn't catch him. And Daryl burned his house to the ground. And they went, "Good, you did our job for us." And that guy left. He wasn't in the house, unfortunately, but he left town and never came back, and nobody missed him.
Imagine that.
Reminds me of that scene in Roadhouse. "Tinker, did you see anything?"
Exactly.
Fell on me.
Fire fell on me.
Oh, too funny. All right, so just got a handful of tabs left, just to be a bit of a refresher for our audience on just how fast and quickly TDA set up shop here in America. So this is going back a few months, and this was national news, by the way. Venezuelan gang TDA is now operating in every city in Tennessee. 6.9 million views, by the way, 50 seconds.
The TBI says not only is a dangerous gang growing nationwide, but it's impacting every major city across.
If you didn't catch that at the beginning, she said T, not D. TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Tennessee.
They have a pathway to more violence.
The TBI director, David Roush, warning Governor Bill Lee in a budget hearing Tuesday about the rising threat of a violent criminal group, Tren de Aragua.
They're back in all of our major cities. They are running human trafficking operations.
Roush says the Venezuelan gang does not hesitate to attack their opponents in public.
Recently, there was a video that they shot where they shot an individual, a cartel member, 31 times, broad daylight on video, and posted it to social media.
Roush says they'll next engage in more retail theft before taking on the drug trade. The TBI says not only is a dangerous game.
All right, that's the end of that one. Next one up. This is a edited video. You'd never get away with posting this on any mainstream social media platforms, but NYPD reveals that the ruthless TDA gang is establishing its presence in New York. Again, this is from last summer. Members are Venezuelan illegal immigrants. TDA recruitment ads used to be taken in countries like Venezuela and Ecuador. Now they're filmed in Times Square. Police link them to robberies, shootouts, smuggling operations, etc. Primarily child sex trafficking, because it's recurring revenue, and they make anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 a year off of each victim. 1 minute, 30 seconds.
The NYPD says these are suspected members of the ruthless Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which has been infiltrating the U.S. for the last 2 years. NYPD Assistant Chief of Detectives Jason Savino telling me it is believed this video was made while the gang members were in Ecuador, and its purpose is to recruit new members.
Then when you fast forward, you see the same individuals where? In Times Square. So that's our concern.
The NYPD says Tren de Aragua has been making it over the border with the migrant influx and is getting established in New York.
What we do see is they are trying to grow.
The gang has gone from petty crimes like shoplifting and stealing cell phones and jewelry to all-out shootouts in the streets. Alleged gang member Bernardo Raul Mata recently confessing to police that gang members are being instructed to shoot police officers. Mata is charged with shooting 2 officers after they stopped him for riding a moped the wrong way on a one-way street in Queens. In court, an assistant district attorney revealing what Mata told investigators about the gang.
Tren de Aragua members are smuggling firearms into city shelters inside food delivery packages. That way they don't have to go through the metal detector.
Guns being smuggled into migrant shelters in food delivery packages that are not being screened. The gang violence is escalating.
All right. And moving on to the next one from our friend Ryan Matta. Those of you who aren't familiar with Ryan, he is J.J. Carroll's business partner. They produced their 2-part docuseries, This is Treason, together. Venezuelan gang TDA pulls up to the deadliest block in Chicago, opens fire on the black citizens, sending a message: we run this city now.
Wow, mira. Wow, para 66. Allá. Un blog, mamá huevo, está por allá. Nosotros estamos por aquí. Oh, el malandrío.
So that video that had some rapid fire there may get this video taken off of YouTube and a strike, by the way. It's happened to us before. Even though it's reporting on something, it's against their crazy commie tube rules. All right, imagine
guys better stay in Chicago.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest concentration of Venezuelans in the country's in Chicago, and it was the first place that TDA went and set up shop for the reasons I've already mentioned. All right, imagine being upset that someone like this is being deported. This illegal from Guatemala was just arrested in Georgia for allegedly sexually abusing 4 children. These kids are now traumatized for life. On Friday, March 14th, 2025, detectives obtained arrest warrants for Gonzalez. After obtaining the arrest warrants, members of the department's power squad and patrol officers located Gonzalez at his residence and took him into custody. Detectives continued to investigate the accusations against him, resulting in numerous additional arrest warrants obtained on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. Gonzalez is an illegal immigrant from Guatemala, and he's being held in Lowndes County Jail for the following charges: 5 counts of child molestation felony, 3 counts of rape felony, 4 counts of aggravated sexual battery felony, 4 counts of sexual battery on a child under the age of 16 felony, 2 counts of aggravated child molestations felony, and 3 counts of cruelty to a child in the first degree felony. That just blows me away that anybody could want somebody like that to stay in our country and yet continue to harm more Americans. So just a quick rundown on this last one here, and then I give everybody a chance to take their final shots. Under U.S. law, no trial required, violate your visa, face deportation. So now we're getting into the realm, just at the end of this chapter, speaking for a second, towards people who come on a student visa and then organize demonstrations on college and university campuses where they burn the American flag and they promote terrorist activity. They got to go to. They have no right to be here. And this article is fairly long. It's a good read. It's up on Gateway Pundit, but they don't have the rights to a trial. They're not Americans. They're not here as Americans legally. And, you know, FO, pretty simple. Bruce, closing thoughts on getting all these shitbags out of our country.
We had an interesting guest on the Sting podcast last night. She goes by Junique's perspective, but she asked an interesting question last night: is where are all the men? Where are all the men in these cities? What they do? They all snowbirds and went down to Florida, or what happened?
They're taking their wives and getting the hell out.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when they get out, because the only people there are the law enforcement, and they're freaking handcuffed.
Well, again, I don't have Alzheimer's, but I got Sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget. Who was the Marine in New York City? Was it Daniel
Perry.
Say again?
Daniel Perry.
That's it, Daniel Perry.
Daniel Penny.
Penny? Okay.
Penny, pardon me.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that as an example, that if we intervene in something like that in one of those Democrat-controlled cities, the risk is pretty significant.
Yeah. Well, again, Second Amendment laws, they're gone. You know, it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. S2, your final thoughts?
So it's kind of funny that when I dropped the story about Mahmoud Khalil, and the references that we have to him being a British asset who was housed in a British consulate over in Syria, all of a sudden that story dropped off the headlines and you've not heard anything about it anymore. Why? Because it didn't fit the narrative. What people don't understand, these people have been doing this for decades. They come over here on these visas under the guise of getting an education, but what they're really here for is they're here to recruit people for their cause. And that's what he was here for, was to recruit people for the cause of Hamas and to do their bidding. And these stupid college kids that think they're so smart are falling for the bait, just like with TDA. They don't understand that they're going to be thrown away. They are cannon fodder. And they need to cut this out and start thinking critically about what they're being drawn into. And what I see happening is, if this bullshit doesn't stop in the blue cities, you're going to see the 30-year dagger war return. You're going to start seeing people disappear, and it's not going to be law enforcement that's doing it.
Yeah, it's a valid warning. I mean, it's a very dystopian future for these cities if they stay on their current path. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, logic need not apply, because for a lot of these people, it's a religion. You know, the radical leftism is a religion. I mean, this is the people who can say men can have babies, that men do not have a physical advantage over women, you know, and that, yeah, you have freedom of speech, but I get to determine what it is, and you have to call me by my pronouns, or you lose your job or go to jail. These people, it's a cult. It's not even a religion. It's a doomsday cult.
That's valid observation for sure, Jeff. I appreciate that. All right, so that's the end of chapter 1. We're getting ready to pivot into chapter 2 next, which is a bunch of headlines from today. Before that, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends at performancetriggers.com. They have this super safety kit now, and it's $169. And if you use discount code SD10, you get another 10% off plus free shipping. Ironically enough, so this thing, is called the Super Safety, and it includes a trigger like this that has a small modification. You can see where the corner of it was milled, and it comes with a new tumbler for the safety that looks like this. And suffice it to say, it makes the trigger perform much like a forced reset trigger, meaning extremely high rate of fire, but it's still a semi-automatic, because when you hold your finger, the bolt carrier hitting the reset lever will still move your finger. But they're still very impressive. I can't show you the performance because every time we've shown the performance, it gets us a strike because YouTube interprets it as being full auto. But anyway, performancetriggers.com. Discount code SD17 works on everything. They've got AK triggers, more AR triggers than just the Super Safety. They've got Glock triggers. This is really their forte. I've been friends with these guys for a long, long time. When you use the code SD10 and you get the 10% off free shipping, Survival Dispatch gets a small commission on each one of those. And we appreciate it when you support our partners and anything that helps us cover the bills here at Survival Dispatch. All right, moving into chapter 2. So, Department of Justice asks Supreme Court to intervene in deportation flights case. And the wokeness in this video, if I'm thinking if this is the right one, is, I don't know, it's hard to get through, but we're going to take our best swing at it.
In other legal news, an appellate court has refused to lift Judge Boasberg's block of those deportation flights of suspected Venezuelan gang members. Where does this case go now? Is it going to go back down to Judge Boasberg?
It does go back down to Judge Boasberg, at least as of now. And we know that he has vowed to get to the bottom of whether the Trump administration violated his court order on those deportation flights that went out on that Saturday a few weeks back. And so he is still trying to get answers and get more information about those flights. So that's a battle that we expect to see playing out in his court in the days to come. He also is going to have to decide whether to extend his order that has blocked the administration from invoking the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. So that's another battle that's going to play out in his court. So this really does go back to Judge Boasberg, but at the same time, the Trump administration, if they wanted to, they could now try to attempt to file an emergency appeal at the Supreme Court.
And the Trump administration has been arguing that these are state secrets. We're not going to give them over to the district judge. Is that going to continue to be the argument? And does the judge have any recourse for that?
Yeah, that's right. This is really the battle, is whether this privilege was properly invoked. We do know that the plaintiffs are going to first have an opportunity to respond to the administration saying that these are state secrets and can't be turned over to the judge. The plaintiffs are due to respond in writing by early next week. And then we expect at some point after that to see the judge make his ruling. So it's certainly a big story to watch as we get into next week.
So the only reason I put this in the beginning of chapter 2 instead of chapter 1 is because we did get a decision on this. And the information does not have to be turned over to Boasberg because it requires a top secret clearance, essentially. So I put it in because we got another win today, essentially. And the wins have actually been pretty frequent this week in particular. But check this out. Ready and agile. U.S. Army soldiers assigned to Joint Task Force Southern Border continue to work tirelessly to enhance national security. Check out some of their latest equipment testing in a Stryker armored vehicle. 1 minute, 6 seconds. At one point in time, I had an early 70s deuce and a half. I think I'd rather have one of these, to be honest with you. As to what's the head count up to now as far as deployed troops on the southern border?
I think it's close to 10,000 now.
Substantial. I've been watching the daily numbers, and they're hovering just a hair over 200 encounters per day. How much of that, or Jeff and Bruce as well, how much of those 200-ish encounters that we're having each day on the southern border do you think are basically tests, like feeling out what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. Is that an element?
I think probably, at least this is my opinion, that they're all tests.
Okay.
All of them are, because
Interesting.
because what they send across, it was like Doc Pizza, what was it, last week when we were talking to him, is they'll send some people over this way, and if they encounter resistance this way, then they'll take the other way, which is the least point of resistance, going into other states like New Mexico.
Good point. Yeah, that's right. Jeff, you're kind of on the front line of this. Any comments?
Well, yeah, ironically, when we were, I was in Dallas last week for my granddaughter. And when we spent the night on the road, and we were in Van Horn, Texas, which is, if it's not the middle of nowhere, you can see it from there. And at the motel we stayed at, there was a van full of young, strapping guys and with military haircuts. And I said, okay, what unit are you guys from? And I think he said it was the 4th AID or something like that, from Fort Carson.
Interesting.
And I said, you guys going down to the border? And he's like, yes, sir. And I'm like, well, Godspeed. So yeah, they are sending people down.
That's awesome.
Definitely sending people down.
Hey, Bruce, do you have any of these operations on your northern border with Canada?
We don't get to see the border from where I live. We don't really hear a whole lot about it. I have heard that there were troops running up and down the highway.
Interesting.
We really have only one major highway going up and down, but I think what J.J. Carroll said was the best, though, about where these guys pour a cement slab. What did he say? Like
500 feet.
500 feet, and do not cross zone, and light off a few rounds on the few guys that decide to come across, and that'll end. But if Trump wins this whole battle with this one judge, I'd like to see these guys roll into Chicago, New York, Boston.
You want to get in? You want to get in on the pool on which well-known public official gets arrested first by Homan?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I think S2 had Brendan Johnson from Chicago.
Yep.
Michelle Wu's up for the running. Michael Johnson, Denver's in the running.
Well, except he's pushed out already and said he won't do it.
Right. Michelle Wu's still doing it. They did it this week. They let a bunch of criminals go that ICE was seeking detainers on, and she said, "Yeah, we don't have."
And Homan went in and scooped him up.
Correct.
I think all those corrupt people need to go research what a wartime president is, because I think they're gonna get schooled.
I do not disagree at all. All right, moving on to the next one here. White men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges from Tuesday compared to other groups. Keir Starmer. Rest in peace, UK. There's no coming back for this. I've been saying it for coon's age now. Europe is lost with the exception of maybe Poland and Hungary.
Slovakia.
Yeah, the UK is just got.
They're trying.
Yeah, UK's gone to hell in a handbasket. I have a hard time listening to this clown, but anyway.
Well, I'm disappointed in this response, and the Lord Chancellor is obviously continuing to engage on this, and we're considering our response. And all options are on the table, but I am disappointed at this outcome, and now we'll have to consider what we do as a result.
Well, let's cross live to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Now, it seems to me, Chopper, that the politicians want the Sentencing Council to change their direction here, but they're not willing to legislate to do so. They're in a bit of a war of words here.
Yes, they are. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Nana. Welcome to Huddersfield, where it's pretty cold up here. I've been talking to the Prime Minister moments ago. I asked him twice, will you just scrap the Sentencing Council. It's a quango. You have the power to scrap it. What you don't do is have the power to overrule it. And frankly, the judges now are looking back at the elected politicians here, both Sir Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, who is a Justice Secretary, and saying, I'm afraid to say, these are what's going to happen. And from Tuesday, this is what will happen. Judges will prepare pre-sentencing reports where necessary. And if someone is of ethnic, cultural, or faith minority, or a young person under 25, or a woman, or a pregnant woman, they will get a special sentencing report. Normally, those pre-sentencing reports do mean that the sentence is mitigated, that time is taken off for a jail term, for example. What it means, though, is that white men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges from Tuesday compared to other groups in society. And that is unacceptable to the Prime Minister. He said in terms there, I said twice, would you scrap the Sentencing Council? He said all options are open. Shabana Mahmood, she's the Justice Secretary, she's put out a note just moments ago.
I'm going to stop it there, but I don't buy Keir Starmer being against this at all, because here you go, WEFforum.org, so worldeconomicforum.org. He is in their pocket and a graduate of their Young Global Leaders program. The guy's a scumbag. He's been engaged in this self-inflicted WASP genocide, for lack of a better term, as much or more than anybody else. I personally think England is lost. Bruce, I'll go to you first, then S2, then Jeff for comments on Europe, UK in general.
I'm just curious what kind of voting machines they use over there.
Good question.
You mean they vote?
I'm asking.
Touche. That's you're up, S2.
They are infested with our version of the infidels in their government, and they have accomplished their goal, which is the same goal they've been trying to accomplish here. And now they have gotten to a certain position. So they have two forms of Islam. They have one that's called Mecca, and they have one that's called Medina. The Mecca version of it is, we are few in numbers, we are going to be gentle and peaceful. As soon as they are allowed to infiltrate and gain more power, they become the Medina, which is, we are no longer going to be nice and we are no longer going to tolerate you, and it will become convert or kill time. That's what they're looking at right now. They are at the Medina stage.
Yeah, that's well stated. I couldn't agree more with that. Jeff, you want to take a swing? You're on mute, Jeff.
It's basically, you've let not just a fox, you've let millions of foxes into your hen house, and then you're wondering why your chickens are dead. England is gone. They will not come back from it because they don't have the balls to do what has to be done. And so, yeah, they're done.
We had dinner with a bunch of higher ups at SHOT Show one night. Higher ups meaning in government positions. One of them was from Australia, had recently returned from a trip to London, and he hadn't been there in something like 5 years. And he said to us at the dinner table, he said, they're done. They're cooked. They're lost. There will be no turning it around. They let too many in, and it's essentially self-inflicted, genocide. All right. Coming back.
There's only one way I see them coming back from this, and that's to enact another 30-year dagger war. It'll be slow. It'll be hard. A lot of people will die, but that's the only way that this happens, is to do that type of thing.
And it may have to come down to that, because to be quite frank, and J.D. Vance was the person who started ringing the alarm bell on this. Everybody's worried, that Iran will get nukes. Well, you don't got to give it too many years before Great Britain will be the first Muslim country with ICBMs and nukes. It's a big concern.
And they'll be happy to ship them over to Iran.
Yeah. And happy to shoot them as well. So that's an important consideration for what's going on in the UK. We can sit here and we can say they're lost, but bad things happen if that, continues the way it is. 1 year ago, the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore after a cargo ship hit it. We still haven't started rebuilding a new bridge. In fact, they haven't even demolished the old remains yet. China would have built 10 bridges by now. True story.
Yeah. Well, look how fast we built the Empire State Building in a little over a year in the 1930s.
Exactly.
The Golden Gate Bridge, which engineering marvel of its time. What was it, like a year and a half? They haven't even started.
Yeah, it was a short period of time. Sorry, go ahead.
I wonder what the red tape is involved in that. Trump's always going after about all these freaking rules and regulations we have.
It's exactly what it is. I mean,
I can't even imagine what something is like that building in a waterway.
Well, California they've been building high-speed rail since 2008. Okay, 2008. Have they carried a single passenger? It's been almost 20 years.
It's freaking insane. Where'd the money go?
My comment to this photograph was welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah.
I fly over that bridge all the time going down to Virginia. It's an eerie sight to see that thing like that.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment, is what it is. Former Ambassador Sands to Newsmax. Greenland wants independence from Denmark, and so she was former ambassador there. I think this is maybe a minute and 20 seconds or so. I'll play the whole thing. Bear turns of
this week, saying in part, quote, "They know well that Greenland isn't for sale. They know well that Greenland doesn't want to be part of the United States. It has been communicated unambiguously to both of them directly in public. Is there any chance, Madam Ambassador?"
Yeah, that's just flat out not true, by the way. Those lies by the Denmark leader there. The polls that have been done on people in Greenland, they're actually quite in favor of becoming an American territory, which means they would keep their culture and their form of government, all that stuff. Anyway, let's hear what the ambassador said.
Sir, to actually negotiate a deal, is there any chance at all that Greenland becomes part of America, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, to the Prime Minister of Denmark's statement, Greenland doesn't want to be part of Denmark either. They want to be independent. So this is really rich coming from her. They're, I think, probably in the Danish government gleeful that they've scuttled a wonderful diplomatic moment for Greenlanders and the Americans, but it won't last because Greenland wants to be independent. Now, maybe they've slowed it down by their, stoking fear of America, but as a matter of fact, Greenland wants to be independent. And there are ways to have independent countries have an association with the United States where we can secure them and we can help to invest in them to build infrastructure and a prosperous economy. So that's what America does. We've done it with places like Micronesia, Palau. They have something called a COFA, or a free association agreement with the United States. So I think Greenlanders and President Trump will find a way to find each other and to secure Greenland.
Golly, that looks inhospitable to me.
but wait, we can't build a bridge in a year? Okay.
Yeah, JD Vance put out a thing out on X. What was it, yesterday? And he says, "I'm going to Greenland tomorrow with the wife. Any suggestions?" And I put, "Dress warm."
Right, that's about it. No kidding. Jeff, do you want to take a swing at Greenland?
No, I mean, they just need to become independent and then make alliances as they see is in the best interest of their country.
Yeah.
What's Denmark going to do? Attack us?
Yeah, I mean, they've been there. I mean, they're the Inuit type peoples, and they've been there for thousands of years. It's why it's Danish. I have no idea.
Hey, I love their kayaks. I've got two that I built based on their designs. So
yeah, it goes back to the Viking days, for crying out loud.
We had the original techno Viking dance on last night, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
All right. Shocking body cam footage shows New Jersey Mayor Gina LaPaca staggering while arrested for allegedly driving drunk with toddler in the car. This was only a 49-second video.
Perform a field sobriety test. In the video, you can see her once again stumble and lose her balance as she is asked to stand on one leg.
I know. That's okay.
LaPlaca is taken into custody and charged with driving under the influence and other related offenses.
So the passenger side, the passenger side of her car, the mirrors all mashed up. She crashed into something, and when she pulled in, the neighbor saw that she was clearly intoxicated, and they called the neighbor, called the authorities. But if you look at that and you look at her official picture for being the mayor, I had to do a double take because it didn't really look like her. There you go. By the way, you can see the side mirror all mashed up on her car there.
That is not a natural hair color, by the way.
It is not. And there you go. There's her official picture as the mayor. Okay. And
yeah,
maybe it's got something to do with being drunk or something, but that doesn't even look like the same person to me.
That's what happens when you let box wine moms become mayors.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, I was at lunch. I had a salad. Well, it was a fruit salad. Okay, it was wine.
What job was it? Alina Hobbit?
Yeah.
What is she going to do in New Jersey?
Attorney General, isn't it? No, DOJ attorney in New Jersey. All right, next one up. This is pretty interesting, actually. It's amazing the technology and science here. So this shroud, believed by many to be the very cloth that wrapped our Lord, has now been authenticated to the time of Christ himself. So they've dated it somehow. I can't remember what the technology was that you used, but they basically say, it's just over 2,000 years old, which it's right on point though, time-wise. Jack Posobiec's made several posts on it, but I'll play part of this video.
Through the meticulous work of modern science, chemical analysis has whispered to us truths long veiled by time. This shroud, believed by many to be the very cloth that wrapped our Lord after his crucifixion, has now been authenticated to the time of Christ himself. So this may not just be a fabric. It could be a testament and a silent witness to the historic physical life and resurrection of Jesus. Imagine this very shroud, once perhaps displayed in the majestic city of Constantinople, influencing the hands of medieval artists. Their brushes, guided by more than just inspiration, might have painted the face of Christ from this very image. Every stroke, every shade could have been a memory of the divine passed down through time, the same way that we know the medieval monks meticulously copied the Bible word for word for hundreds and thousands of years. This is why the medieval art matches the face that we see on this shroud. The implications for our faith are profound. Here lies potential proof, not just of Christ's existence, but of his passion, his suffering, his love for humanity, and his resurrection. If this shroud is genuine, it's as if we've been given a relic from the very moment of our redemption, a physical connection to the divine sacrifice. So for centuries, skeptics have questioned, but now with science as an ally, we stand at the cusp of a new understanding. This shroud could be the bridge where faith meets fact. It challenges us to see beyond the skepticism, to touch the hem of history, to feel the weight of the cross in our hands. This isn't merely about a cloth. It's about the heart of Christianity and Western civilization. The shroud, if truly from the time of Christ, speaks to the very essence of our belief, the incarnation, the crucifixion, and yes, the resurrection. It invites us to a deeper reverence, to witness the tangible reality of God's love for us.
Pretty interesting finding. If you don't follow Jack on X, it's at Jack Posobiec, or go to patreon.com/survivaldispatch. Sign up as an insider, $9.99 a month, $95 a year, get 2.5 months for free. You can download all of our daily sit reps, has all of the links to this stuff. Plus you get an invite to our Signal chat.
Jack's a little bit behind on this.
Yeah, I just want to. He put a ton of posts up today on this March 28th.
This has been out for 2.5 years now. That's been dated back to that time already. And with the chemical process that they've used now on this, I've done a lot of studying on this, by the way. They were actually able to reconstruct a 3D model,
I saw
and
that.
it shows that the body actually levitated where it was laying.
Incredible. Anyway, interesting development. I'm not going to read this. This just reiterates a lot of what he said in that video. But if you follow him or get our set rep, you can read through that. All right. So this particular interview with Elon Musk and his team has got a ton of views. Brett Byer here. This one was published earlier today. It's already got 11.6 million views on it. It's only 39 seconds long, but there are much longer versions, especially on Fox News.
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ.
Right.
Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, it's the DC Circuit is notorious for having a very far left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
Are you surprised at?
Yeah. So Bruce, go to you first.
Yeah, so I messaged you today about this. I watched the whole thing. It was, I think, 30 minutes. But I think if the audience will go look at the people in that crowd and understand who they are, like they got one of the guys in the back underneath the 3 stars. He is the owner of Airbnb. He's the guy that created that. And just the stories they told about the crap they were finding. The big one, I think a lot of the older generation needs to look at is Social Security. And I can't remember which one said it. It might have even been Elon. But he said, if you'll bear with us, you're actually going to get a raise when they get rid of all this freaking fraud and waste. You're going to get a raise. So people need to take the 30 minutes and go watch the whole video.
Agreed. Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. S2.
Yeah, I got into a skirmish. Actually, I've been in a couple of skirmishes today with some people over this. One of them came back and said, I said it was a Ponzi scheme, and they came back and said, no, it's not a Ponzi scheme. And then I came back with the question, okay, if it's not a Ponzi scheme, then why is it that money you get paid into it, you don't get paid interest on?
What was the response? Crickets?
Crickets. And I'm like, if it's not a Ponzi scheme, then why is it that you pay money into it? Just like you put money in a bank, the bank uses your money to make loans to people for things, and you get paid interest on it. You're not getting that interest paid back. Well, where is that interest going? It's getting skimmed off the top. A portion of it goes over here in some politician's pocket or in some NGO's pocket. It goes back to the politician, and then another portion of it goes over here for the next guy that's coming along, that they send him a $900 check in lieu of his $100,000 or $1 million that he's paid into the system. It's a Ponzi scheme. They need to get rid of it altogether and start putting it into a fund where it's actually making money, like putting it into a silver or a gold backed fund. I mean, physical gold backed or silver fund.
Yes.
And that way you have some backing for it, and you can make investments with that, and then you make money on it.
Amen.
I've said for years and years and years, they need to have people like this in there that have run businesses, not these fucking jackoffs that have been in Congress for ever since it began, that have never worked a real job in their life and have never started or run a business.
True story. Jeff?
Yeah, the problem with Social Security is they passed a law, I can't remember how many years ago, it was 40, 50 years ago, that Social Security Trust Fund could only be invested in T-bills, government bonds. Okay. Instead of buying stock in IBM and General Motors and all this that actually pay dividends and pay, so you get some interest, they wanted to be quote unquote safe. So they only T-bills. Well, then that money goes to the government, and what they do is they just spend it. So it's like writing yourself a post-dated check for $1,000 and then spending $1,000 and saying, I have this post-dated check for $1,000. So this is an asset. Well, an asset is somebody else's promise to pay.
Right.
You can't write yourself a check on a closed account for $1 million and say, I'm a millionaire because I have this check for $1 million. There's nothing back in the check. And if the government, they sell a T-bill, or Social Security Administration Trust Fund buys a T-bill from the government, and then the government just spends the money. There's nothing back in it. It's the government. Okay, well, I promise I'll pay myself back.
Right.
That's bullshit.
Who buys the T-bills? You do.
Yeah, well, you do with your But the thing is, the Social Security Administration's buying the T-bills. They're taking hard currency that they've collected from us from our payroll deductions, and they're buying basically an IOU from the federal government and calling it an asset. It's not.
Agreed. Well said, Jeff. Well said. All right, that is the end of chapter 2. We're going to go into chapter 3 now. Want to mention one of our sponsors, CCW Safe. There's a link below. If you use it, you sign up for CCW Safe. We do not get any commission off of that, but they do help us defer some of our expenses each month. I spent 18 months going back and forth with all the players in this particular industry, and there's nobody that compares to CCW Safe, full stop. And some of the competitors actually sell you an insurance policy, and an insurance policy cannot pay you benefits if you take a plea deal on something, even though your attorney says, I wouldn't roll the dice on this, just plea it out and don't go to court. And in those cases, the company's paid out, let's say $400,000 defending you on average. You owe them the $400,000 back. They will not defend you on appeal. They will not defend you. Well, I guess you wouldn't have an appeal, pardon me, if you had a plea deal. They won't defend you on civil lawsuits. They will not pay anything out in civil judgments. You're done at that point in time. CCW Safe doesn't work that way. It's a membership. They will continue to defend you. They also have a quick reaction force, for lack of a better term. And there are people whose phones all ring in the middle of the night, if that's when you're involved in a citizen-involved shooting, and they're on the first plane coming to you to help you. So they're by far and away the best option out there. And people used to complain about the price. I want to say $47 a month for their top tier package. They've got good, solid values at this company. If you sign up at $47 a month, your spouse, your husband or wife gets the same coverage as you at no additional charge. So you're talking $23.50 a month per person for the top tier coverage. Go have a look at your policies from somebody else. If you have self-defense insurance, double check if it has a recoupment clause. And if it says insurance, it's garbage. And there's lots of people have been abandoned by those companies selling insurance because of what I just mentioned. All right, moving on. Chapter 3. Now we get into some zany, funny stuff. Matt Couch here, Joe Rogan, and this sheriff are spot on. Florida sheriffs are a different breed, and this is very true. I was actually going to mention this earlier, and I thought, no, I'll wait till we get to chapter 3.
You see that cop on TV? They were saying if someone breaks in your house in Florida, please shoot them. We prefer if you shoot them.
7 charges total. His bond's $157,500. As to the person, we don't know which homeowner shot at him. I guess they think that they did something wrong, which they did not. If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Whoever that was, you're not in trouble. Come see us. We have a gun.
The full video, he says, we prefer that you do, actually, because it's less paperwork for us.
Safety class we put on every other Saturday. If you take that, you'll shoot a lot better, and hopefully you'll save the taxpayers money. So whoever that was.
I mean, he's getting a lot of heat today. Not in Florida. The thing is, once people start going to jail for defending their own property, you've made a mess.
You made a mess.
You made a giant mess.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all caught it today, by the way, but Sheriff Grady Judd in Polk County, the greatest sheriff of all time, in my opinion, made DJ, the young lad with brain cancer, honorary sheriff's deputy for Polk County. And
I did see that.
It was funny. That little guy, he was going right at Sheriff Grady with the zingers and stuff. It was funny. It was good.
That kid's a ham. He's a serious ham.
100%. 100%. All right. Pivoting to the anti-Tesla baloney. Internet, do your thing. Let's make him famous. So this guy is causing damage to the front of this cyber truck here, but they've got all these cameras. You notice where it says Sentry and tells you it was Thursday yesterday. They call them Sentry cameras all around the Teslas. All right. Hypocrisy, leftists. That's vandalism. You know, somebody running their tires across a pride flag. Also leftists. That's protesting.
Yeah, they want to see vandalism now. They've torn up that entire street to get rid of that.
Amen. Yes, they have. All right. So if you want to see the insanity of these people on the left, this video, 54 seconds, does a good job, but this is who we're up against. And we're into chapter 3, so there's going to be profanity, either from us or some of the videos. Nothing over the top. Maybe this one might be a little bit over the top, but these people
bleep it out. They bleep it out.
These people are absolutely nuts.
We've been fighting fascism for over 50 years.
And so much has changed over those 50 years, such as the ingredients to a successful firebomb.
And the glass that bank windows are made of.
But there's one thing that hasn't changed over 50 years, something that is so important to tell you kids who are new to this movement.
Shut the up. You're sitting in the police transport van after a protest?
Shut the up. In a holding cell with your comrades?
Shut the up. Cop knocks on your door?
Shut the up.
Texting on an unsecured device?
Shut the up. Pulled over by the cops after a protest?
Shut the up. Cop just asking about your day?
Shut the up. Feds, call your mom?
Tell your mother to shut the up.
Now, repeat after me. When the cops come calling, what do you do? Shut the up!
Yeah, from the National Lawyers Guild. Isn't that special?
Exactly. Bunch of mentally ill tree hugger hippies.
Wait a minute. Be honest. We say the same thing. If you're
Yeah.
a J6er and the cops come up to your door, don't talk to them.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
But these people are certifiable. You know, actually, this does dovetail nicely into the CCW Safe stuff, though. So many, many years ago, a Port Orange detective said to me that if you're ever involved in a citizen-involved shooting, when you make the call, number one, say there's been a shooting. Don't say you shot somebody. There's been a shooting, and I need you to send 2 meat wagons, one for the person who's been shot and one for me because I'm having chest pains. I think I'm having a heart attack. When the cops show up, you tell them, look, I'm having severe chest pains. I need to get to the ER. That buys you time to get to the ER, to have an attorney get in touch with you from CCW Safe. Nothing that you said under, you know, extremely high adrenaline and other stuff going on. Did you say anything that could be used against you in a court of law? But this is on our side. We don't say, you know, shut the fuck up 50 times. We just say, keep your mouth shut. So
I say shut the fuck up.
not 50 times in a row. You don't. I've never heard you do that. Although S2, after you hear this, you may want to say shut the fuck up to Tim Walz. He's calling for a shadow government now. I'm old enough to remember when this was considered a coup attempt.
We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote. This is one of the things, though, that this is going to take power to the streets. I don't know what the answer is on this, but I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government, so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening, telling what's going out. We see one of
What would he know about the truth? I knew it was coming. That's awesome.
One of our North Carolina politicians was up in Congress saying that they were constructing a shadow government.
Right. Yeah, no surprise, actually. Now, this is kind of interesting. Talk about a bunch of dishonest, crazy people. New York Post This was titled Biden Their Time. Dems plan for Biden to withdraw from presidential race, die in office as far back as 2023, scathing new book claims. This contingency planning was spearheaded by former Vice President Kamala Harris's communications director.
It went further back than that. It went back as far as 2019 because Biden went on air and actually said, I don't know, maybe I'll come down with something, maybe I'll die, and then Kamala will have to step in.
Yeah.
He did say that. That's right. Oh, what a shit show that 4 years was. All right. So more of the crazy Democrat terrorism against Tesla people. Reward is now $3,200 for successful ID to arrest the man in this video for intentional damage to this person's Cybertruck and assault on his wife in Orleans. X, do your thing. I mean, I don't know. All these, I'm reluctant to call them dudes, but they all have that. Yeah. They're all lighting the loafers. Every last one of them, friggin' twinker, you know? And here he is, brave guy threatening this woman. These people are mentally unhinged.
Yeah, they are.
Makes me want to go buy a Tesla truck.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah. You could repurpose MAGA for make asylums great again. All right. And there you go. This morning, DJ was just sworn in as a Polk County Deputy Sheriff by Grady Judd. This young man deserves all the love and support he's received. Grady Judd is so awesome. Golly, he sets the bar high.
That kid's going to have his choice of where he wants to go when he grows up.
Yeah.
So that was the 914th law enforcement agency that he's been sworn in at. And the goal is to get it over 1,000 in the next month or so. We're working on Derek Maltz, the head of the DEA. He's been on Survival Dispatch News in the past. Now DJ and his father coming on Survival Dispatch News, just working out some of the logistics. General Flynn, if that happens, General Flynn will come on as well for the beginning when they award him an honorary DEA agent standing. So stay tuned on that. We're working on it. The thing is that the DEA has had no SOP, so standard operating procedure, to come on people's podcasts. So the way it was presented to us is that Derek would and General Flynn would come on at the beginning for a very brief period of time, bestow it upon DJ, and then they would have to leave because it can't be part of anything political, which we're not really political, are we? I think we're just more like realistic.
We're just a bunch of guys telling people to shut the fuck up.
In much nicer words.
Common sense.
It's uncommon. So I am really surprised that a woke city like Toronto will put this out. This is their most wanted list of murderers.
That one looks like Obama.
I mean, what am I missing in this picture? I don't see any WASPs in there. White Anglo-Saxon Protestants, not one. This is their top list.
That one in the middle there on the far right looks like Obama when he was young.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. I'm still amazed that they would put
And racist Canadians.
Yeah. They've got a comedian, Russell Peters is his name. Golly, he's funny. And he's putting on a thing, I don't know, this is probably like 10 years ago in San Francisco. And he says something like, how many Chinese people do we have in the audience? And you hear a bunch of people going, woo, like that. And he's like, oh, listen to that. They're all calling out their last name. Woo. And then he says, so how many of y'all are from Mexico? And you hear a bunch of people, they hoot and holler. And he says, yeah, I'm Canadian. We don't have any Mexicans in Canada. Our lawns suck.
Yeah, they actually do.
The last house I had in Arlington, the previous homeowner was a general contractor. He said to me, he said, hey, I've got these 3 Mexican guys. He was Mexican too. They come every Saturday and they cut the lawn and, they blow it, edge it. And I had a couple of walnut trees that were just like brutal for bombing the yard. But anyway, the very first Saturday we woke up, I go downstairs, I'm in the kitchen making a cup of coffee, and I look out the window, and here's these 3 Mexicans, not one of them over 5 feet tall, with push mowers zinging around my backyard. It was half an acre, and it had a floodplain, so it dropped me down. They're running up and down the hill, and $35. I thought it was good. It's a good deal. It's a fair deal. My lawn did not suck. All right, being fat is a choice. Fat people put their own health at risk. This cracks me up. Put a mask on. You're putting my health at risk. I don't know if I got it in here or not. Did you all hear RFK Jr. Go after the governor jokingly in West Virginia? He basically calls him fat for the entire time, saying how he's going to make him healthy again and so on and so forth. I don't recall if I have it in. If I don't, I will find it quickly. But all right, so. Hey, Harwood Junior High, is this violence allowed on campus because it's against a white child, or are you going to take accountability toward what happened and rectify it? I would also love to know what Jasmine Crockett feels about this. And beating a child unconscious, then stomping on their head, how is that not attempted murder? Tom Holman, where's your outrage, AOC and Jasmine Crockett? A white child getting beat unconscious and head stomped at Harwood Junior High School doesn't fit your narrative, right? So you won't speak on it. 45 seconds. This is brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Look at these weak ass male
Yeah,
teachers.
just grab the kid and toss him. He's not
That dude on the right-hand side is a teacher.
Yeah, I know.
I think the one trying to break it up is a teacher.
Yeah. The one getting knocked out will be this shitbag on top.
I
want to know why his pants are down.
Yeah, not acceptable at all. All right. This one's funny going the other way. Prescription drug commercials be like, ask your doctor if this RX is right for you. Side effects may include. Oh my God. Oh my. This one, I don't know what.
You could add a coffin to that just for flavor.
Yeah. I don't know if just a second. I'm trying to find the thing for West Virginia. This next one here, I don't know if this broad is like messed up on something or what's going on here. This is a very strange video. I don't understand this either. Somebody explain it, please. But she completely loses her shit here.
Okay, can you see me in the mirror?
Yeah, I can see you perfectly.
I'm sorry, how is that possible?
Because it's reflecting you.
But it's not, there's a towel in the way!
All right, calm down.
I don't understand. I don't.
Well, go really close. How does it know that?
What do you mean?
How does it know?
How can it see me? My face is covered by a towel.
So?
I'm not even being like, this is weird Matrix shit. How can the mirror see me? How can it know I'm doing anything? How does it know?
I actually don't know. Please, somebody explain this. Please, I've seen videos where this happens, but I don't understand. I actually don't understand this.
How can it see me?
So, well, think about it.
I am not.
No, wait. Think about it, right? How on earth can that sit? That is not possible.
Freaking me out.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like I'm in like a weird, different world.
Does anybody want to comment on that?
That is weird. Jeff, you're on mute.
You're still on mute, Jeff.
That's people who don't understand geometry and how reflections work, and angle coming in equals angle going out. And yeah, if he was right behind her, he wouldn't be able to see her, but he's at an angle, so he can.
There you go. All right, so this is the 57-second video. This was earlier today. Holy cow, RFK Jr. just told the governor of West Virginia that he's fat and needs to lose weight. You look like you ate Governor Morrissey.
I got to know. I said to Dr. Morris or Governor Morrissey the first time I saw him, I said, you look like you ate Governor Morrissey. and there was a lot of talk about getting healthy again. And I'm very happy that he's invited me to be his personal trainer. And I am going to put him on a really rigorous regimen. And we're going to put him on a carnivore diet. We're going to make him raise your hand if you want Governor Morrissey to do a public weigh-in once a month.
He's sitting on stage.
And then when he's lost 30 pounds, I'm going to come back to the state and do a celebration and a public weigh-in with him. I got to know, I said to
You know, the one thing that strikes me here is whether it's somebody who's been a longtime Trump supporter or not, everybody who's kind of on our side, called the patriotic American side, has a sense of humor, and everybody who's not on our side are just a bunch of miserable fucks. I mean, there's no sense of humor on the other side to speak of. And RFK Jr. is a pretty funny dude at the end of the day.
You should go talk to JB Pritzker while he's at it.
Oh, God.
That's more than 30 pounds. I think he ate JB Pritzker too.
No, I think JB Pritzker ate Chris Christie.
Right. All right. So it really is just this simple. Any federal judge who rules to stop the President of the United States of America from stopping known fraud is indeed complicit in that fraud themselves and should be charged as such. It's not rocket scientists. Federal government slush fund for Dems and rhinos. True story. All right. Next one up. President Trump cooks reporter for wearing face diaper in office. It's partway through this video, so I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version. President Donald Trump made headlines when he seemingly mocked a reporter for wearing a COVID mask during an Oval Office meeting, quipping, "You're wearing a mask. So nice of you." As he signed an executive order on auto tariffs, President Trump instantly went viral, as many social media users pointed out. It's the year 2025, and people are still wearing face masks like it's 2020. Also, Representative MTG went viral for sharply telling a foreign reporter to go back to your country during a heated Capitol Hill press conference, sparked by a question about the leaked Signal chat. Too funny. I don't even remember the last time I saw somebody with a face diaper on. Have you all seen anybody?
Yes, yesterday and today.
No shit.
Yeah,
I saw him at the grocery store.
Wow.
Standing outside.
What's funny
by
is
themselves.
it's a lot of young people mostly that are doing it.
No, not where I live. It's the older
Yeah,
folks that are doing it.
Yeah,
It's crazy up there. 20-year-olds with them on.
I remember Cindy and I would go into the Winn-Dixie, not too far from us here, and we would go down an aisle, and people would be coming from the other side, and they'd see that we didn't have masks on. They would do like a 180 skedaddle out of. We ended up having every single thing to ourselves because people looking at us and whispering stuff's like, yeah, well.
My favorite is when they wear their mask and then they go into a restaurant and sit down and then they put the mask down underneath their chin.
How about the people playing musical instruments who cut the hole out? So they can, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Beat
That's
that.
kind of stupid. Anyway, check this quote of the day out here from Retard Finder. By the way, there's a bunch of rumors going around that Retard Finder is actually Elon Musk, and he's using this to call out people for being retards. And I'm starting to think it might be because there's another guy called Fag Alert. So at Fag_alert, and he is not gaining the following like Retard Finder, and he's been at it longer, and he's got a similar sense of humor. So this could very well be Elon Musk.
Retard Finder made a statement today. He now has 666 followers, and he needs to get off of that number very quickly.
That was a couple days ago, and I clicked on it, and he was at 666. This quote, though, is absolute insanity. I become friends with school shooters. How stupid you have to be to believe a word that this faggot says? Speaking of fags.
Tim Walt's stupid.
That's what I mean. Like, you got to be pretty fucking stupid to believe a word that guy says. So men used to lie about their age to go fight in wars. Now they lie about their gender to beat women in sports. Yeah. That is a sad, sad story. My Uncle Harry was too young for World War I, lied and went. He was too old for World War II, lied and went in. Cindy's dad was too young for World War II, lied and went in. Greatest generation, for sure. Oh, wow. Okay. So another one of these Tesla incidents, a liberal male Karen. Actually, I'm not going to ruin it for you. Let's just go full screen on this and wait till you see what happens at the end of this. Pay attention at about the 39 second mark.
Hi, TikTok. Hi, live. Yeah, go ahead. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. You're not paying attention. I'm paying attention to you. I can do it too, you fucking dumbass. Hey, you Joe Biden looking motherfucker. You suck my dick, you fucking faggot. You faggot. Oh, God. Jody, he just hit somebody. Jody.
He ran over two little girls in the intersection because he wasn't looking. I hope that son of a bitch gets sued into oblivion.
No shit.
So just I got to do a quick audience poll here for this next one. And I'm not going to bring it up because I don't want you to see the context just yet. If you don't like the smell of body odor, put a 1. You do not like body odor, put a 1 in the live chat. If, on the other hand, you're a dude and you think that women with body odor is okay, or, you know, another dude with body odor is okay being in close proximity to you, let's say sitting beside you on an airplane or something like that. So 1, if body odor is not a good thing. 2, if body odor is actually a good thing. And the reason I say that is because The Guardian just published an article that says, hate body odor, you're more likely to have right-wing views. So if you don't like smelly people now, you are a right-wing fascist.
Have you ever stood next to a person who affiliates with Antifa?
Yes.
They stink.
Absolutely. Anyway, I'm seeing all 1s. I'm not seeing any 2s. Very proud of our audience, by the way. We got the best audience. Wish I could do a Trump impersonation on how we've got the best. They're beautiful. We got the best audience. All right. Oh, yeah. And so this is the person who thinks you're in a cult.
Okay.
All right. And this is the last one. This is pretty cool. Check this out. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has revealed a new tattoo reading Kafir, Arabic for infidel, inked just below his Deuce Volt tattoo right there. That's pretty cool. Pete Hegseth's real deal, by the way. All right, final sponsor message, EMP Shield. I'm mentioning this because we're coming into the storm season here in the Southeast, hurricane season, but whether you have hurricanes or not, if you want to protect all your electronics, you get $50 off on each EMP Shield device that you buy. Link down below. You have to use that link to get the discount. Whether you are concerned over EMP strikes or not, electromagnetic pulses or CMEs, coronal mass ejections, this will protect you from lightning strikes and comes with a $25,000 insurance policy. So if you get struck by lightning and you have any damage, this company will give you $25K, which should more than cover your deductible. These products work extremely well. We are the only people who've tested these. Go to survivaldispatch.com. You'll see our video at the very top of our homepage where we hit one with, we put 360,000 just so no naysayers could really nitpick. It was 400,000 volts. We hit it with multiple times and it saved everything multiple times. So pretty impressive stuff. All right. With that being said, we're into the homework section. We're almost done here. Homework meaning, what are the things that you can do as an average citizen, much like us, in light of Tren de Aragua essentially being sent here by the Venezuelans as an invading force? So number 1, actually, I'm going to share one more screen because this is good. There's a website right here called TDA Activity Monitor, and it'll show you where they are, what cities they're in. You can select the city, and it'll bring up information on what's going on in that city. So, number one, if you live in any of these cities, awareness is key. If you don't live in one of these cities, but you happen to be traveling, whether by interstate, air, or otherwise, good to know where and where you shouldn't be stopping. So that's one quick way to keep an eye on TDA. So it's just tda.securefreesociety.org, or actually there's a redirect on it as well. Of course, it's in the daily sit rep as well. Stay sharp and informed on this stuff by following SDN. I would say we were one of the very first podcasts to bring in experts like Victor Avila to speak towards TDA before they really became a thing here in America. Victor Avila is one of the agents who was shot up in the Fast and Furious debacle in Mexico. Agent Zapata, this is 2012, died. They were both shot numerous times, died in his arms. Victor is really up to speed on this stuff. All right, keep your area tight. TDA are tied to stuff like trafficking and drugs, mostly in migrant heavy spots. If you see sketchy shit, people packed into a house or acting scared of the cops, tip off your local police. Neighborhood watch works too. Ask your sheriff or state officials what they're doing about gangs. Some places like Texas are already hunting these guys down. Push for more border law enforcement muscle and deportations. Hundreds of them have been nabbed lately by ICE. And here's a really, really important one. Don't go cowboy. All of these Latin gangs go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. So you essentially, you want to avoid eye contact or getting into any type of confrontation with them. They're not going to stand around and argue with you. They're going to pull a knife or a gun and assault you almost instantly on the spot. So be aware of that. If you find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time, just get out of there without getting embroiled in anything. So I'm going to go to the panel now for their suggestions on what you can do as an average person in light of TDA. Bruce, I'm going to go to you first, then S2, then Jeff. What's your advice for people, Bruce, as far as TDA is concerned?
I think you really just got to steer clear, like you said, I travel a lot and I never go anywhere where I can't carry. That's pretty much bottom line anymore. If they're in a city that I'm going, I'll be on hyper alert, and I'm always carrying. I agree with the eye contact, but I'm not going to be freaking carrying my cell phone like this, in front of my face.
Yeah, that's key. I mean, we refer to these things as, weapons of mass distraction.
Yeah.
We've done multiple episodes on being gas station ready.
Yeah.
And, it's key. High level situation.
Head on a swivel.
Yep, exactly. So what does that mean? Let's just quickly cover Colonel Jeff Cooper's combat mindset, which can be applied to everybody. You're sitting at home right now watching this podcast. You don't have a care in the world. You're in condition white. You leave the house, you go to walk across the street, you look both ways, that's condition yellow. You go to a gas station and you see what looks like some shady people, you should be in condition orange. If it goes to condition red, you're either being attacked or you're imminently going to be attacked. But if you go to condition black, that's where you just lock up because you have your stress level so high, your fight or flight, doesn't kick in. You just freeze instead. And condition black is a thing. It's a real thing. And it's why 70% of Floridians who are killed by gunshot wound that did not commit suicide are killed each year with their own gun. They pull a weapon, they go into condition black, bad guy takes the gun away from them, shoots them. S2, your thoughts on what the average person can do in light of TDA being entrenched?
Condition black is also known as adrenaline lock.
Yeah.
So you've covered a good piece of this, but one of the things that I would encourage people to do is, I don't care what kind of weapon you carry, get training. If you need to use it, you need to get training, because as I basically train my students with hand-to-hand and knife stuff primarily. And in all cases, what I teach them is, you are not here to win this fight. You are here to get away. So you need to be able to defend yourself as best you can without getting injured. But if you're in those kind of altercations, chances are good you're going to get injured. So get some training in those areas. And if you lack training with handgun, you should get training from qualified people. That's basically all I have to say on the matter. And I'll add one more. I'll add one more thing. If you have to go somewhere that you can't carry a gun, you can carry a knife or you can carry an improvised weapon. Get yourself a piece of paracord with a big bolt. You can hang it around your neck and use it as a necklace. It makes a great weapon.
There you go. Just quickly to tack on to what S2 said, there's an adage from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Human beings never rise to the occasion. They follow their level of training. So if you have never trained with a gun with an elevated heart rate, your accuracy will be absolutely terrible. You lose fine motor skills when you get into that type of situation. So there's a video out there of a F-350 one-ton dually, toolboxes across the back, and there's a construction worker. He's out of his truck. Carjacker comes along, jumps into his truck. The truck is stationary. The guy the employee who's supposed to be in the truck is 5 feet away, 5 feet. And he took 6 shots at the driver, the carjacker, not one connected with the driver. He backed up about 50 feet, mashed it, put his toe into it, drove over the construction worker and killed him on the spot. So you have to engage in what's called stress inoculation, which is what S2 is getting to. So you go to the range, you stand there, you shoot your ball ammo instead of your EDC ammo. It's good for getting familiar with the controls of your weapon. It's good for sighting and optic. That's it. You have to train while you have an elevated heart rate to simulate being in an SHTF situation. I train 5 days a week, and I no longer have time to go to the gym like I used to, so I incorporate it into my gun training. I do an exercise, I sprint 20 yards, I do another exercise, I shoot a volley of shots, a live fire, sometimes just a kinetic airsoft rifle that's made for training that has built-in kickback and stuff from Unit Solutions, or even the Mantis X systems, which are really good for feedback on, are you cantilevering the gun, so on and so forth. But by doing that nonstop in a circuit for upwards of 45 minutes, it's about 200 rounds a day, 5 days a week. And I've gone out in the pouring rain, by the way, and put 480 shots downrange at night in the rain. And I missed the steel silhouette target once from about 25 yards away, and it was just off to the side. So I'm not saying I'm the best shot in the world. I'm not the best pistol shot in the world. Pretty darn good with a AR pistol though. But again, when I started doing that, the Mantis, I want to say, was scoring me in like the 60% range. Now it's 95%. Sorry for being long-winded, Jeff. Your thoughts on TDA, what the average Joe can do? You're on mute, Jeff.
Like with everybody else, be aware of your environment, and just remember that a problem avoided is a problem solved. So don't get yourself into a position where you have to fight your way out. If you have any indication it's coming, just get the hell out of there.
Distance equals safety.
Hey, just another pitch for most people that, a lot of people don't like to train and do stuff, but a lot of times if you read something, you might get sparked to go get some training. And I would suggest reading The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker.
It's good. Tony Blauer is a close personal friend of mine. He's the one who coined the term in the 1990s, weaponize the flinch. And he teaches people the seconds before the shit hits the fan. So how to recognize the flinch, how to recognize the fear, and then channel it to actually defend yourself. And he's got some really, really good stories. Our audience has heard them a bunch of times. I'll just tell the final one because it's funny as heck. So he lives in LA. Listen to this, Bruce. He's sitting in a stoplight. There's a bunch of cars in front of him. Somebody rear ends him. He gets out of his car. The driver in the car in front of him gets out, starts walking towards him, looks at the bumper where Tony's bumper had smashed into his bumper. Two of his buddies are getting out the other side of the car. And he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you, man. And Tony's about my size. And Tony's like, whoa, time out. There's 3 reasons I can't fight you right now. He interrupted his OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, and act. The guy literally stopped to listen to the 3 reasons. Tony sucker punched him, knocked him out cold. The other 2 guys got back in the car. So Super way of handling it. All right. Last promotion for Patreon, patreon.com/survival dispatch, $9.99 a month, $95 a year. You get 2.5 free months if you do it yearly. You get all of our daily sit reps, and you get an invite to our amazing Signal channel. I did not anticipate that it would happen the way it did, but it did. This is what a daily sit rep looks like. If you haven't seen one, if you're not an insider, there is a shit ton of information in them. We also have a section at the end that has all kinds of discounts on products that we actually support. Less than 10% of the products sent to us make it onto our website. Your homework is in here. Links to everything are in here. It's a pretty comprehensive document. If we have restricted content that we can't put on some platforms, that goes at the end. But we are ready to wrap up S2 with the conflicted question, and we'll call it a night. I think you're on mute, S2.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say that again. Before I do this, I want you all to hit that like button like you hate it. Okay. So here we go. A family of 4, parents and 2 teenage children, lives in a small suburban neighborhood. One night, a widespread power outage hits their region due to a severe storm, and rumors begin circulating that local authorities are overwhelmed and unable to respond to emergencies. In the chaos, a group of desperate looters breaks into their home, armed with makeshift weapons. The family manages to hide in a fortified basement they had prepared as a precaution, but they can hear looters upstairs ransacking their belongings. The parents have a handgun stored in a safe, good place for that, along with limited ammunition, but they've never had to use it. The looters haven't found them yet, but the family knows they might be discovered soon. The storm has cut off communication and help isn't coming anytime soon. Here's your question. In a situation where your family's safety is at risk from looters during prolonged crisis, is it morally justifiable to use lethal force to protect your loved ones and your resources, even if the looters might be desperate and starving themselves? How do personal values shape your decision to either confront them or remain hidden and hope they leave? This is a no-brainer question.
Yeah, it is. Jeff, you can go first, then we'll go to Bruce. You're on mute.
Good, because I have to go eat because my wife's finishing dinner right now. Yes, you can shoot them. Your first and only obligation is to your family. Someone breaks into your house, their rights end at your threshold.
Amen. Bruce.
Locked and loaded is all I can say, and my gun's not in the safe. Matter of fact, it's right here.
Right on. So I would go just a little bit further and say, number one, you should be fortifying your home so it's not easy for people to get in. Put bushes under the windows that have thorns on them. We use Robolinis here in Florida. They've got needles on them yay long. They will go through leather or anything and inject poison in you. Nobody's getting through a Robolini to get through your window. Things like fortifying your exterior door. Jeff and I have a similar setup where we have a steel door that's decorative looking. It looks like a screen door, but it's really a steel door that's an outswing. And then behind that, for our main door, we've got long screws in the hinges. We've got bars behind it. If somebody wants in, they're going to get in, but it's all about slowing people down so you have time to react. And so number one, fortify your home. And there's lots of other things that you can do. Number two, you should have guns. Either you wear a gun in your house or you hide them in your home somewhere. There was an incident last year. A guy was in the restroom. He had a pistol in the restroom. Somebody broke into his home. They opened the door to the bathroom. He's sitting on the throne. He shot the guy and killed him. And this guy that he shot and killed was wanted for other homicides. So thank God he had that firearm with him. The other thing is you can go to our website, survivaldispatch.com, and up top where it says connect, I believe it's either community or connect. There's a home defense plan in there that's free. I think it's around a dozen pages long, but it'll guide you through the process of coming up with a home defense plan. All right, S2, you have the final say.
I'm pretty much of the same mind as everybody else. I mean, there's not really too many places I go in my house where I don't have a firearm within arm's reach. That's the next question that has to be answered is, where is your firearm? If it's in a safe, it's not doing you any good. If it's not loaded, it's not doing you any good.
100% on that. Yeah.
An unloaded firearm is a very expensive rock.
Truth. All right.
Hit somebody with it too.
Yeah. Jeff O'Donnell and ST will be back tomorrow night for Saturday evening. John Wheaton will be back Sunday night. I will return on Monday evening. I'm Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from now on. John is Sunday, Tuesday, and Jeff O'Donnell's every Saturday. But until I see you next time, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and God bless America.
Hoorah.
Thanks for the invite.
Kick-ass video here, by the way. So hang out. This is a good one.